Chapter 357. Qilin Luojun was leading his trusted subordinates to build an impenetrable defense. They were surrounded by the Qilin clan. Yi Linshan was not in a hurry. After killing the Great Elder, he still had to kill the Qilin Tiger and Qilin Tianyu. Clearly, he did not want to alert others. As time passed, the sky gradually brightened. Yi Linshan frowned and thought to himself, Qilin Liang's body will be found in 2 hours at most. I can't stay here for long. Perhaps the Great Elder's calamity had arrived. Just as Yi Linshan was unwilling to wait any longer, he handed the task of overseer to others and returned to the courtyard alone. Yi Linshan smirked and sneaked in. As soon as he reached the courtyard, Qilin Luojun seemed to have sensed something. He hurriedly turned around and found no one behind him. He shook his head slightly, thinking that he was overthinking. Just as he was about to return to the house, he felt a chill on his neck. Songhai wine. Yi Linshan's hands left the sword hilt and kept forming seals. He pressed them on Qilin Luojun's head. A huge ball of fire enveloped Qilin Luojun's body. Unfortunately, Qilin Luojun's throat was sealed and he couldn't make a sound. He looked at Yi Linshan's face in shock. He wanted to reach out and grab Yi Linshan, but his fingers were stiff and he couldn't move. The great emperor's body turned into a pile of ashes and scattered with the night wind, leaving behind a pile of bloody clothes and words. Yi Linshan sheathed his sword and left again. However, not long after he left, Qilin Luojun's body was discovered by the Qilin clan. For a moment, the Qilin clan was in chaos. Qilin Tianyu was furious and alerted the old monsters of the Yinyang school. Yi Linshan saw that he had no chance. He immediately fled 1,000 miles away and went straight to the human clan. The Qilin clan looked at the words beside the 3 fake emperors' bodies. Traitor, die. What a sarcastic sentence. Most of the Qilin clan fell silent. That shame would be branded on their souls forever and could not be washed away. The Qilin clan was disunited. Many people were dissatisfied and doubted the decisions of Qilin Tianyu and Qilin Tiger. It was inevitable that the Qilin clan would fall apart. Outside the insane sect, more than 30 fake emperors approached. Seeing that the formation outside the insane sect was broken, they immediately rushed to the inner sect. When they found that the inner sect's formation was intact, they knew that there were still people inside. The leader sneered. He knew that the insane sect's bloodline. Kill. Boom. More than 30 false emperors bombarded the inner sect's grand formation, causing heaven and earth to shatter. The people of Emperor Abyss City knew that the Kuang Zone was in danger, but they were powerless to help and allowed him to attack. Si Wuxie and Li Jiuchong frowned as they watched more than 30 masters attacking the inner sect grand formation from afar. The inner sect's formation isn't the strongest. I'm afraid it won't be able to withstand their attacks for a long time. When the sect gate is broken, you should leave from the back, Li Jiuchong said in a low voice. Eldest senior brother, why are you so pessimistic? Let me find a chance to kill one of them first. Si Wuxie's aura was like that of an emperor, suppressing Li Jiuzhong so much that he didn't dare to blaspheme. He stomped to the bottom of the mountain and clenched his iron fist. Golden light shone, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. More than 30 fake emperors gathered and focused their attacks in one direction. They were not far apart and could attack or defend. When Si Wuxie appeared at the bottom of the mountain, all the fake emperors were excited. Si Wuxie's golden bloodline was their natural enemy, but if he replaced it with the golden battle blood, he would definitely be reborn. Li Jiuchong also followed. Seeing more than 30 strong enemies attacking the Kuang Zone, he couldn't help but worry about the current situation of the human race and the safety of the other people in the Kuang Zone. Quick, break the sect's grand formation and capture one of the golden bloodline. Then our mission will be completed. Boom, 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 every expert was giving their all, leaving no room for leeway. The grand formation was in danger. Si Wuxie clenched his iron fist. Although he knew it was very dangerous, he still didn't want to leave Li Jiuchong behind and leave alone. Light shone outside the Kuang Zone, and death qi shrouded the surroundings. The ancient massacre god was already gone. As long as the Kuang Zone was broken, the ancient massacre god would be unstoppable. The number one guardian force would be completely destroyed. Outside Emperor Abyss City, the dead spirit emperor had personally arrived. Even the great emperors of the human race couldn't go and help, and the boundary emperors couldn't leave either. They could only let the Kuang Zone be attacked. Gu Qingyu and Zi Tian joined forces to attack. The Tianwu battle sword was awakened, and the Qilin divine fist shattered the earth. The Kuang Zone's grand formation was shattered. More than 30 pseudo-emperors were not shocked, but happy. Half of them attacked the 2 pseudo-emperors who came to help, while the other half attacked Si Wuxia and Li Jiuchong. Die! Si Wuxia's blood qi was awakened. He suppressed the heavens and the death qi, and attacked the pseudo-emperor on the right. He didn't even look at the other pseudo-emperors. It was as if he didn't need to defend himself. Dragon subduing seal. Li Jiuchong stepped to the left of Si Wuxia and summoned the dragon subduing seal. It kept growing, and his true yuan poured out. He crossed his legs and stabbed them into the ground, desperately blocking the attacks of more than 10 pseudo-emperors to buy time for Si Wuxia. Boom, boom, boom. Poof. Li Jiuchong's golden body collapsed, and his blood stained the ground. He didn't retreat an inch. The dragon subduing seal was like a heavenly sword that couldn't be broken. It blocked the attacks of 14 pseudo-emperors. Boom. Si Wuxia's power was monstrous. His fist was like lightning, and no one could dodge. That pseudo-emperor was too arrogant and didn't want to dodge. He directly punched back. However, when his fist landed on Si Wuxia's fist, he realized how stupid he was. The powerful golden bloodline body shattered the pseudo-emperor's body, and the crazy golden battle blood qi destroyed the pseudo-emperor's life force. The golden bloodline became a scorching sun, burning the death qi. A pseudo-emperor couldn't even withstand a single attack. Ah! The pseudo-emperor screamed. His soul was quickly suppressed, and then he turned into a wisp of smoke and dissipated. Boom! Li Jiuchong's leg bones were broken. In order to buy time for Si Wuxia, he blocked the pseudo-emperor's joint attack. His body was flying backward, and Si Wuxia pulled back to help. The two of them controlled the dragon subduing seal together, and kept retreating. Xiao, xiao, xiao. Gu Qingyu was like a tiger in a pack of wolves. His battle sword was awakened, and the emperor's aura was vast and mighty. It suppressed the pseudo-emperor until he couldn't breathe. His sword pierced a pseudo-emperor's throat, and the emperor's sword destroyed his life force. Boom! Qilin divine fist burst out, and a pseudo-emperor's arm was broken. Gu Qingyu stabbed him with a sword. The two of them joined hands and suppressed the opponent. Whoosh! Suddenly, the sun and moon appeared in the sky at the same time, pressing down on the ground and destroying the death qi. Muyu Tianchen and Nangong Qingyue attacked. The two of them came out hand in hand, holding the sun in one hand and the silver moon in the other. They cut through the sky and attacked from the void. Die! Nie Tian attacked back, and the axe light cut through the mountains and rivers. His aura rushed out and smashed a pseudo-emperor away. Pucci, the Big Dipper star teleportation crossed thousands of miles and appeared outside the Kuang sect. The golden dagger and short blade tore the head of a pseudo-emperor, and the long sword in his sleeve pierced through his body. A pseudo-emperor's undead spirit didn't even have time to struggle. Lin Aoqiong's sword moved in all directions, and his speed was unprecedented. He stopped a pseudo-emperor. Gudu Baitian's huge sword towered into the sky, and he was domineering and fierce. He also stopped a pseudo-emperor. The experts of the Kuang sect returned one after another, and they quickly gained the upper hand in terms of numbers. Under the leadership of Qian Long Breaking Dawn, The top 10 experts of the Qianlong clan used the tyrant martial arts horizontal strike. Although they couldn't force a pseudo-emperor to retreat, they could stop a pseudo-emperor. Sikong Qingjun also came with his team. Most of them were pseudo-superclass experts. They couldn't defeat a pseudo-emperor individually, but together they could stop a pseudo-emperor. The Kuang sect's advantage was obvious. Zhang Gu returned, and so did Jian Qinshui and Xia Ziluo. Xia Ziluo was the craziest. Her jade-like hands wrapped around the sky, and her palms kept forming hand seals, absorbing the spiritual qi within 1,000 miles. The 8 trigrams seal kept spinning to support her consumption of spiritual qi. It evolved into a huge hand that covered the sky and directly grabbed the neck of a pseudo-emperor. Crack, the pseudo-emperor's body was forcibly broken by her. With a press of the huge hand, she directly pressed the other party into the ground. His golden bones were broken, and his flesh and blood flew everywhere. Icebound 1,000 miles. Whoosh! Jian Qinshui only targeted a pseudo-emperor and instantly froze him. Zhang Gu pierced through the pseudo-emperor's body with his spear from behind, and it turned into countless ice particles. In just a few breaths, the Kuang sect was filled with experts who returned to help. The superclass and pseudo-superclass experts of the younger generation fought in groups of 3 to 5 or 30 to 1. The pseudo-emperor was beaten to the point that he couldn't resist at all. Several superclass experts directly killed the pseudo-emperor, especially Yen Yunbei. He came and went without a trace. His golden dagger axe and short blade were simply lethal weapons that killed with a single touch. His opponent had no chance to resist. Within 100 miles of the Kuang sect, they were surrounded. The battlefield was tragic. Countless experts were killed by the raging pseudo-emperors. First-class experts could only be considered as courting death. However, there were still people who came forward one after another, especially the myriad races. Their hatred for the dead had reached its peak. In the past great calamities, the human race was the first to suffer. This time, it was the myriad races who suffered heavy casualties. Even the Sage King clan was destroyed, let alone the other small clans. In the eastern wilderness, Yi Qinghan returned to the valley where the divine lotus was. The colorful snake's body had grown a lot. It swam around the divine lotus, and its 8-colored skin gradually evolved into 9-colored. Scales also appeared on its body to protect its vital parts. The divine lotus noticed the arrival of Yi Qinghan and the parrot. It swayed its lotus leaves as if it was welcoming them. Yi Qinghan bowed slightly, cupped his fists and said, "Junior greets Senior Divine Lotus. Thank you for giving me the lotus seed last time and saving my spiritual pet this time. I will definitely repay your kindness in the future." The divine lotus emitted a divine light, and the great Tao precepts were attached to it. Its origin was out. No one knew how powerful this heaven-defying divine medicine would be once it proved its Tao. Perhaps it would become another 9 dragons sovereign. Colorful snake, come back with me. Don't disturb Senior's cultivation, Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. The colorful snake reluctantly swam towards the lakeside. It constantly turned its head to bow to the divine lotus, expressing its gratitude for saving its life. The divine bird's eyes flickered as it pounced towards the divine lotus. It was extremely wretched as it said in a flattering tone, "Senior Divine Lotus, the divine bird's lotus seed is gone again. Can you give me some more?" The divine lotus swayed its lotus leaves as if refusing. The divine bird pitifully begged, "Just give me a little, just a little." The divine lotus could not stand the parrot's shamelessness. It could only summon a few dozen lotus seeds. Most of them were freshly born lotus seeds. They shone with divine light and were full of medicinal properties. The parrot immediately put them into its yin and yang ring. Then, it bowed and groveled, wishing it could kneel down before the divine lotus. Yi Qinghan smiled and bowed again to express his gratitude. Then, he retreated and charged towards the imperial domain with the divine beast. Chapter 358. Yi Qinghan was so anxious to return that he rushed to the center of the imperial domain without even asking about the Ghost Emperor's whereabouts. Screech! The god-slaying eagle was even faster now. It flew through the clouds, and the majestic imperial domain was suppressed by a strange heavenly might. The great Tao wailed. The parrot stood on Yi Qinghan's shoulder, high-spirited and full of fighting spirit. The colorful snake shrunk and coiled around Yi Qinghan's thigh like a golden dragon. Its sharp eyes pierced through the void. It flew as fast as lightning and turned into a wisp of green smoke. In the center of the battlefield, the dead spirits were furious. They had waited bitterly for the Ghost Emperor for a month, but he was nowhere to be seen. That damned Ghost Emperor, where did he go? The Void Spirit Tharch roared. He was only left with a soul and was very weak. He didn't want to wait, but he had to. He was a soul and was weak to begin with. With a Tharch Tao fruit watching him, he would be the first to die once the battle started. In fact, the humans were even more puzzled. Where do you think Yi Qinghan tricked the Ghost Emperor to? He was able to stall for so long. The Six Disasters Azure Dragon said curiously as he looked at Di Shang and the others. Di Shang shrugged. He felt that Yi Qinghan must have taken control of the situation since the Ghost Emperor had not returned for so long. However, he didn't expect the Ghost Emperor to be half dead and hiding in the depths of the sea to recuperate. He wouldn't come out of seclusion for a few hundred years. When he came out, it would be good enough if Yi Qinghan didn't chase after him. The situation on the Kuang sect's side has stabilized. Once the dead spirits get rid of these 30 fake emperors, our Thearchs will definitely win. The endless universe led by the Kuang sect can also suppress the ordinary dead spirits, Great Emperor Fusu said indifferently as he glanced at the Kuang sect thousands of miles away. The heroes of the Kuang sect were alarmed. The Kuang sect was too strong and had a feud with the Kuang sect. When the war ended, the Kuang sect and the Kuang sect would definitely fight. If Di Shang didn't choose a side, the Kuang sect would have no chance of winning. The Six Disasters Azure Dragon also didn't want the Kuang sect to grow to a point where they couldn't suppress them. After all, the people of the hidden families were incompatible with the endless universe. When they return, we can start the war before the Ghost Emperor returns. Let's do our best to cripple the undead. We'll take care of the human race in the future. Great Emperor Su Fu said in a low voice. Yes, sir. The three great emperors bowed slightly. Their respect for Great Emperor Fu Su came from the bottom of their hearts. After staying in the Forbidden Grounds for so long, Great Emperor Fu Su could still resist the desire to devour life force. His willpower was already unprecedented. At least, it was much more terrifying than those dead spirit emperors. Outside the crazed sect, the ground cracked, corpses were strewn everywhere, and blood flowed like rivers. The younger generation fought against the fake emperors and suffered heavy casualties. The 10,000 clans suffered the most casualties. First-class masters and super-class cultivators were also severely injured. But in the end, not a single one of them managed to escape. This powerful suicide squad was wiped out. Not a single one of them managed to escape. Everyone's faces were brimming with joy, especially those from the insane sect. They realized that Stan Wuxia had transformed. His every move carried the aura of an emperor. His words and actions were impeccable. He was incomparably powerful. At the 9th tier of the Celestial Gate, he could fight against the young divine martial kings of the pseudo-superclass. Whoosh, whoosh. The juniors of the crazy sect had also arrived from the rear. In the end, they were half a step behind and did not make it in time for the battle, but they broke the silence at the moment. What happened in the sovereign domain? Why isn't Master here? Stan Wuxia stared at everyone and asked in a low voice. It's a long story. Follow me to the Imperial Abyss City. You'll understand when you get there. Gu Qingyu then stepped into the Imperial Abyss City. Some people cleaned up the battlefield and buried the corpses. The insane sect was in a mess. Yi Qinghan sped over from the eastern barren territory. His robes fluttered in the wind and could be clearly seen from afar. At this moment, his aura was overwhelming. He had the demeanor of a young great emperor. At the early stage of the divine martial realm, his physical body and soul had both entered the divine martial realm. He could fight superclass cultivators with his physical body alone. Now, those superclass cultivators at the early stage of the divine martial realm were probably no match for Yi Qinghan. The multicolored snake returned to Yi Qinghan's body. This was his killing move. The multicolored snake could definitely bite a quasi-emperor to death in an instant. Even a great emperor would be severely injured. The fire crow also returned to his body. There was no need for the divine bird and the god-slaying eagle to hide. They broke through thousands of miles in an instant. Before anyone could react, Yi Qinghan had arrived in the sky above the imperial abyss city. Yi Qinghan is back. Where's the ghost emperor? Everyone was shocked. The human race, the dead spirit race, the myriad races, and the hidden aristocrat. The void spirit great emperor, the skull great emperor, and the other great emperors frowned. They looked at each other and stared at the divine bird on Yi Qinghan's shoulder. Their hearts trembled. They felt that the ghost emperor's disappearance was related to it. When this divine bird moved, the ghost emperor's body collapsed. The seas dried up and the rocks crumbled. He surrendered but was suppressed by this divine bird. This kind of trash is not worth mentioning. The parrot looked at everyone's shocked expression and said proudly, "Impossible!" The skull great emperor was furious. No matter how weak the ghost emperor was, he was still a great emperor who had not confirmed his Tao. How could he lose to Yi Qinghan and the parrot? He immediately berated, "Yi Qinghan, where is the ghost emperor? He's dead." "It's not like great emperors can't be killed," Yi Qinghan said calmly. Yi Qinghan spoke with certainty. Naturally, he wanted to attack the dead spirit great emperor's confidence, and buy some time for the human race. He was determined to confirm his Tao. Once he confirmed his Tao and became a great emperor, he would be a true great emperor. These half-crippled great emperors were nothing in his eyes. Great Emperor Wake suppressing was surprised. Yi Qinghan didn't seem to be lying. Could it be that the ghost emperor was really dead? The Six Disasters Azure Dragon and Tianmu Xinglua's eyes flashed with surprise. They became vigilant. If they went to kill the ghost emperor, both sides would suffer at most. How did Yi Qinghan do it? The corner of Di Shang's mouth twitched. He secretly transmitted, "He's really dead? The ghost emperor is really dead? I don't know if he's dead or not, but he definitely won't be reborn in the next few hundred years," Yi Qinghan transmitted. Di Shang was overjoyed. Now that Yi Qinghan had returned, the human race's chances were even greater. The auras of the creatures in the endless universe increased greatly. The insane sect's prestige reached its peak. Yi Qinghan waved his hand, and the violent heavy saber shone with golden light. It had been completely modified in the Mountain of Flames. It had reached the middle of the 8th grade and weighed hundreds of thousands of pounds. Just its strength alone could crush a divine martial expert. Rest tonight and adjust to peak condition. Tomorrow the battle will begin. Great Emperor Wake suppressing ordered. "Yes, sir." All the creatures shouted in unison. This night was destined to be a sleepless one. The Skull Great Emperor and the Dead Spirit Great Emperor who rushed out later were unwilling. They no longer wanted to go back. They only wanted to completely occupy the monarch domain and the endless universe. However, the human race now had the advantage. With Yi Qinghan back, he was equivalent to an emperor for a short period of time. He could delay the Yinyang school's old monster while Tianmu and Xinglua escaped. Any emperor-level expert of the human race could quickly kill an undead spirit. As for the void spirit great emperor, he had lost his physical body and was equivalent to a piece of trash. He couldn't even compare to Tai Hua, an emperor-level Tao fruit. How long could he last? What do we do? The Skull Great Emperor frowned and asked. Let's retreat. The current situation is not good for us, especially me. I'm locked in place by that emperor-level Tao fruit. I can't use my emperor-level strength at all. If we don't leave now, Haoyue and I won't be the only ones dying. You guys won't be able to go back either, the Void Spirit Great Emperor said seriously. The Dead Spirit Great Emperor, who came out last, revealed a cruel smile and said hoarsely, Even if I die outside today, I won't go back to be a captive pet. These emperors, other than Fu Su, haven't even passed the lightning tribulation. How can they be considered emperors? And those boundary emperors, they still want to preserve their lives. They can't even kill a divine martial realm ant. Why are they still alive? Let them all revive. If they dare to preserve their strength, I'll crush them with my own hands. The Skull Great Emperor and the Void Spirit Great Emperor didn't expect the other party to be so determined to fight with the human race. I'm the Abyss Emperor. Back then, I defeated the 8 Desolates universe in the 9 heavens and 10 earth. As a 9th-layer boundary emperor, I dared to kill my way into the Forbidden Land. Now, a mere endless universe dares to be arrogant in front of me. A bunch of ants forced me to revive and kill them instantly. However, I can't make up for the loss of my life force. I don't want to waste my energy. The Green Great Emperor looked at Emperor Fu Su indifferently. He was the only one who was worthy of his attention. The Skull Great Emperor's eyes flashed as he asked hoarsely, You must be the Abyss Emperor from the immemorial era. I've heard of your name for a long time. I didn't expect you to be hiding in the Forbidden Land. Are you all going to activate your life force and fight to the death? The Void Spirit Great Emperor frowned and asked. If I don't activate my life force, wouldn't Haoyue die anyway? At this time, I don't want to return to the Forbidden Land. I'll fight to the death. Either I return to my peak or I die here. There's nothing to talk about. The Skull Great Emperor snorted coldly. The Abyss Emperor nodded and agreed with the Skull Great Emperor's opinion. The Void Spirit Great Emperor smiled bitterly. If he had the Emperor physique, he might be able to fight. But if he didn't, how could he survive Tai Hua's Great Emperor Tao Fruit? Tao Friend Void Spirit, let's occupy a boundary Emperor physique first. Let's launch a surprise attack tonight. We'll use our peak strength and eliminate the human race's emperors. Leave Emperor Fu Su to me. The Abyss Emperor said indifferently. Tonight, the night was as dark as ink pouring down from the sky. The stars were nowhere to be seen. Outside the Abyss Emperor, Emperor Fu Su's face was solemn. He knew that it wouldn't be so easy this time. Victory or defeat would be decided tonight. The endless universe couldn't afford to lose. Yi Qinghan was still adjusting his condition. The people of the insane sect gathered around, waiting for the battle to come. Yi Qinghan gave everyone a divine lotus seed. Even an outsider like Xia Ziluo got one. This wasn't the time to hide it. No one knew if they could survive the night. Boom! Thunder rumbled as lightning pierced through the ground, illuminating the Monarch region. Bones were everywhere, and blood flowed like a river. Monarch Abyss Emperor held a bone sword in his hand as he walked through the air. His Monarch aura was rising rapidly, and his peak Great Monarch battle prowess made the entire untainted land tremble. Hua! Emperor Fu Su's eyes shone brightly. He formed a seal with his palms and began to burn his life force. He wanted to fight to the death with his opponent. Chapter 359. Fu Su, I heard that you are very strong. Do you dare to fight me? Emperor Yuan said in a low voice. You dare to cause chaos in yin and yang and dye the sky with Emperor's blood. Great Emperor Fu Su stood up. His emperor robe fluttered in the wind as his vitality recovered to its peak. Divine light illuminated the imperial domain as the sun and moon appeared at the same time, tearing apart the darkness. What a good cause chaos in yin and yang and dye the sky with Emperor's blood. Great Emperor Fu Su's boldness was hard to find. Ha ha ha, as expected of a great emperor. Unfortunately, you don't have the courage to achieve immortality. Great Emperor Yuan's eyes shone brightly as he still wanted Fu Su to betray him. If the mountains and rivers are not here, what's the use of my broken body? The land that nurtured me, I am willing to protect it with my life. Fu Su's hoarse voice caused the blood of thousands of people to boil as they were furious. Yi Qinghan's dragon blood was out of control as Great Emperor Fu Su mobilized it to its strongest combat power. Tai Hua sat on Yi Qinghan's shoulder with his legs around his neck as he glared at Great Emperor Su Ling. At this moment, the Great Emperor Su Ling's Quasi-Emperor Dao body was collapsing. It couldn't withstand his peak combat power at all. The might of a great emperor was not something that humans could resist. The Skull Great Emperor's golden bones shone brightly as they overflowed with vitality. He looked coldly at Emperor Shang and the others. The old monster from the school of Yin and Yang, Yin Yang Dongfei, smiled coldly. He could see that the other party was going all out, but he didn't plan to attack. He wanted to reap the benefits. Everyone from the school of Yin and Yang don't move. Qilin Tianyu will be the vanguard and attack the right side of the human race. Yin Yang Dongfei said indifferently. Qilin Tianyu's expression changed. This was clearly using the Qilin clan as cannon fodder. You want to play this game with me? Although my clan has suffered heavy losses, it's not up to you to decide. Qilin Tianyu snorted coldly and turned to leave. He gathered the remaining experts of the Qilin clan and rushed towards the human race. Halfway through, he suddenly changed his route and fled towards the depths of the endless universe. Although Yin Yang Dongfei was furious, he couldn't give chase and could only let the Qilin clan leave. Boom! In the center of the Imperial region, in the sky above Emperor Abyss City, divine light shot out in all directions. Golden light shattered the sky. Great Emperor Fusu formed hand seals, forcefully dragging the battlefield to the desolate era. The sky shattered and the firmament cracked. The auras of the three human emperors were no match for a true Skull Great Emperor. They could only rely on Emperor Killer and the Six Disasters Azure Dragon to drag the Skull Great Emperor into the Eldritch battlefield. Once the Skull Great Emperor entered the Eldritch battlefield, the dead stars shattered and exploded. Blinding light shone for millions of Li Emperors. Blood dyed the sky. Yin and Yang reversed. Great Emperor Su Fu had done it. Emperor's aura spread out. Blood splattered across the sky. The endless universe was shaking. Tianmu Xinglo led the remnants of his sect to confront Yin Yang Dongfei, but he didn't start the battle. At this moment, he had to think about the aftermath of the battle, leaving himself a way out. Yin Yang Dongfei saw through his intentions and nodded slightly. He ordered the Yin Yang 8 tribes not to attack. However, he created a tense atmosphere so that the human race and the myriad races had nothing to say. Kanyang's mouth twitched. Master, it looks like I'm not needed here. I'll go to the front lines. Tianmu and Xing Luo nodded slightly and didn't stop him. This could be considered as doing something for the human race. Outside Imperial Abyss City, the Void Spirit Great Emperor's aura suppressed the heavens. He only needed to guard against Tai Hua and no longer had any scruples. Everyone pressed towards Yi Qinghan, trying to kill him and the Great Emperor Dao Fruit on his shoulder. They wanted to separate him from the Void Spirit Great Emperor. Whoosh! Everyone from the arrogant sect pounced towards the dead spirits to make room for Yi Qinghan. He instantly transformed into armor. His wings flapped in the sky, stirring up the heavenly river. He reversed time and space, reset yin and yang, and regenerated order. Void Spirit Great Emperor, as a great emperor, how can you attack ordinary creatures? Yi Qinghan held berserk and stopped the Void Spirit Great Emperor. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, Gu Qingyu held the Tianwu battle sword and stood in front of Yi Qinghan. Yan Yunbei held the golden dagger and short blade, and stood in front of Yi Qinghan. The three of them formed an inverted triangle, and relied on the law of space to step into the air. Heaven grasping! Boom! Xia Ziluo formed a seal with her palms. The 8 trigrams seal circled around her body. Purple qi came from the east and bathed outside Imperial Abyss City. The spiritual qi between heaven and earth was sucked dry by her alone. It gathered into a huge hand that covered the sky and shattered the order of the sky. The order of the sky was no longer there, and even the Void Spirit Great Emperor was shocked. What a powerful secret technique! What a strong body! The Void Spirit Great Emperor murmured. A wisp of wool gathered into a fist and punched at the huge hand with 30% of his strength. The Void Spirit Great Emperor could only use 30% of his strength. Otherwise, his Great Emperor Dao body would collapse and his soul would not be attacked by 3 or 4 juniors, but by a Great Emperor Dao fruit. Kill! Yi Qinghan was like a sharp sword that cut through the sky. The berserk saber that weighed hundreds of thousands of pounds fell from the sky and smashed into the Void Spirit Great Emperor. If the Void Spirit Great Emperor dared to resist, his body would definitely collapse. Whoosh, Gu Qingyu and Yan Yunbei attacked the Void Spirit Great Emperor from both sides. He had nowhere to hide. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the Void Spirit Great Emperor could only retreat. He did not dare to resist. His Dao body could not be destroyed. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the sky was filled with afterimages. There were figures everywhere, tightly surrounding the Void Spirit Great Emperor. Boom! Golden daggers and short blades shot out cold light. The Emperor's sword cut through the sky, but the Void Spirit Great Emperor dodged it all. Humph! A bunch of ants dare to challenge a Great Emperor. The Void Spirit Great Emperor was furious. He was forced to retreat by a group of juniors. Tai Hua sat on Yi Qinghan's shoulder. His fingertips trembled. He wanted to crush the person in front of him, but he did not have any strength. He could only deal with the soul because he was only a Great Emperor Dao fruit. I dare to dye the sky with Emperor blood. Order reorganization! Yi Qinghan roared. After transforming into armor, his cultivation level rose to the Great Perfection Divine Martial Realm. His speed was extremely fast, forcing the Void Spirit Great Emperor to dodge. 10% of my strength is enough to kill you all. The Void Spirit Great Emperor was cold. Emperor power poured out and wrapped around his golden body. After stabilizing his Emperor body, he sneered and punched Yan Yunbei. He waved his hand and a black wheel appeared in the sky. The black light it shot out was like the reincarnation hell. Reincarnation mirror. Yan Yunbei gasped and shouted, "Don't let the reincarnation mirror's light touch you, or you will instantly turn into dust." Whoosh, Yan Yunbei directly entered the alternate space, not daring to move at all. Swoosh, 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 Gu Qingyu shattered the ground and rushed into the ground, disappearing without a trace. Purple Qi from the east, 8 trigrams protection, hell map, open. Swoosh. Xia Ziluo activated 3 layers of defense. 8 trigrams appeared on her chest and chest, which could reflect all killer moves. The yellow spring map of hell was activated. The water of the yellow spring roared. Hell reincarnation death chi filled the sky. White bones poured out. She was not afraid of the Void Spirit Great Emperor at all. Hold your spirit! Boom! Crack! The big hand grabbed the Void Spirit Great Emperor again, giving Yi Qinghan a little bit of time. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and summoned the divine bow. The azure dragon arm rose, and dragon blood erupted. The divine bow was pulled to 80% full, and the ground beneath his feet cracked. Using the berserk force as an arrow, Yi Qinghan's divine sense locked onto Emperor Su Ling reincarnation light. The Void Spirit Great Emperor poured his emperor power into the reincarnation mirror. The dark light reversed like a black hole and rushed toward the big hand formed by Xia Ziluo. The big hand was instantly annihilated. Swoosh! The reincarnation light slashed from the void toward Xia Ziluo, ignoring the attack that was about to be launched. The yellow spring map of hell roared. The bones collided with the reincarnation light and turned into ashes. The water of the yellow spring was also suppressed and disappeared into the map. The yellow spring map shone brightly, drowning the reincarnation light and blocking the attack of the reincarnation mirror. Xia Ziluo was knocked back by the vast emperor power and coughed up blood. She desperately tried to block it. The yellow spring map of hell. It's in your hands. The Void Spirit Great Emperor was shocked. The reincarnation mirror and the yellow spring map of hell were both divine items of chaos. They were treasures that existed since the beginning of the world. Xia Ziluo had such a treasure, which was equivalent to being invincible. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan released the bowstring. Under Zhong Kuang's control, all laws surrendered. He broke through the sky and appeared in front of the Void Spirit Great Emperor in the next breath. The Void Spirit Great Emperor was so shocked that he forgot about Yi Qinghan. When he saw Zhong Kuang appear, it was too late to dodge. Gu Qingyu and Yen Yunbei attacked at the same time. One cut to the left and the other to the right. Boom! The Void Spirit Emperor held the reincarnation mirror in one hand and threw a punch at Zhong Kuang. However, he had underestimated Zhong Kuang and Yi Qinghan's strength. This attack had been strengthened by the divine bow by hundreds of times. How could the Void Spirit Emperor block the attack of hundreds of Yi Qinghans with just 10% of his strength? Whoosh! The Emperor's body collapsed and his soul was affected. Emperor blood dyed the sky. Yin and Yang reversed and order was reorganized. The reincarnation mirror in the Void Spirit Great Emperor's hand flashed and swept toward Yi Qinghan. The speed of light was incomparable. No matter how fast it was, it could not be faster than the reincarnation mirror. Be careful! Xia Ziluo wanted to help Yi Qinghan block it, but the reincarnation light had already engulfed Yi Qinghan. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan was also stunned. His pupils shrank. He thought he was going to die, but the divine martial imperial codex and heavenly scripture of the Tao Si in his sea of consciousness moved. They used all their divine arts and kept brushing the space, trying to stop the reincarnation light. Boom! The reincarnation light was indestructible and ignored space. Other than the Yellow Springs diagram, other supreme treasures could not stop it at all. The reincarnation light rushed out of the space and engulfed the divine martial imperial codex and heavenly scripture of the Tao Si. The two supreme imperial weapons were turned into ashes. They only lasted for a breath's time. Yi Qinghan was enraged. The divine martial imperial code had always been with him and had saved him many times. But this time, it had been destroyed right in front of his eyes. How could he not be heartbroken? With a quick roll, he dodged the attack and shouted, "Catch him!" Boom! Tai Hua moved the moment the Void Spirit Emperor's body exploded. He grabbed his soul and stuck it on his neck. No matter how powerful the Void Spirit Emperor was, he couldn't resist and could only struggle to his death. Kill! The four experts pounced on the Void Spirit Emperor's soul. Yi Qinghan was bathed in flames. His dragon blood boiled. He waved his flaming hand and slashed at the void. Sky-severing hand. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, heaven and earth were separated, and a small part of the Void Spirit Emperor's soul was also cut off. His soul was tainted with an 8th-grade flame and was instantly ignited. Ah! The Void Spirit Emperor's shrill roar shook the clouds. Countless creatures were killed. The Quasi-Emperor dead spirits could not escape such an attack. They all coughed up blood and flew back. The outside of Emperor Abyss City was like the flames of hell. Everything was burning. Emperor Abyss City was divided into two. A terrifying crack swallowed Emperor Abyss City and countless creatures. Tianmu Xingluo and Yinyang Dongfei's pupils shrank. They looked in the direction of Emperor Abyss City and could not help but be shocked. Seeing the four experts crazily beating the captured Void Spirit Emperor, their eyes were vigilant. Chapter 360. The creatures in Emperor Abyss City were bleeding from their 7 orifices as they struggled to get up from the ground. They watched as Yi Qinghan ignited part of the Void Spirit Thearka's soul and slashed at the other part. The golden dagger and dagger could hurt souls, and the Tianwu battle sword was even sharper. The Netherworld Hell map was tearing at the Void Spirit Thearka's soul. Once the Void Spirit Tharch was pulled into the map, he wouldn't be able to escape. Screech! The god-slaying eagle rushed out of Yi Qinghan's body. It opened its mouth and tore apart part of the soul with its sharp claws before swallowing it. Hiss! The colorful snake also rushed out. Its fangs could shatter fake Emperor weapons, let alone souls. The parrot rushed out of the body and kept spitting out flames. Since the Void Spirit Tharch was being held by Taiwa, he could only struggle and couldn't fight back. Ah! Void Spirit Great Emperor's screams grew weaker and weaker. His powerful soul was divided by so many divine beasts. Half of it was devoured by the Hell of Yellow Springs diagram, half of it was burned by Yi Qinghan, and a part of it was erased by Gu Qingyu and Yan Yunbei. Just like that, the soul of a great emperor dissipated. The Void Spirit Tharch is dead. The endless universe will prosper. The heroes roared. They didn't care about their injuries anymore and started to fight back. Heaven's equal Monkey King turned into a golden body and killed one with one strike. No one could stop him. Even a boundary Tharch would be sent flying a few thousand meters. Roar! 2 divine dragons coiled in the sky. Di Longtian and Long Qiong's aura surged and suppressed the 10,000 spirits' divine technique. Si Wuxia was definitely the nemesis of dead spirits. His blood qi suppressed the death energy and burned the enemy's vitality. With Yi Qinghan's divine lotus seed, he broke through the 9 layers of the celestial gate and entered the divine martial realm. It was easy for him to kill people above his level. A fake emperor didn't seem so noble anymore. The human race didn't have any emperors, only boundary thearchs. There were very few fake emperors, but there were many super experts. In this battle, more than half of the super experts fell. The Kuang sect also sacrificed many people. Only a few elders were left. Sometimes, in such a battle, many people were lucky to not be wiped out. Go and support Kuang Zong. Lady Ziluo, you will accompany me to untainted land. Yi Qinghan's body trembled. Even now, he was still furious. The divine martial imperial codex had been shattered just like that, and the heavenly scroll of the Tao Si had disappeared just to save his life. This time, he didn't just owe his life, he owed the lives of the world. He wanted to complete the unfulfilled wish of the divine martial imperial code and completely destroy the forbidden grounds. Whoosh! Flapping its huge wings, it joined forces with Xia Ziluo and rushed towards the primitive universe. Half of the primitive universe was destroyed by the 2 peak great emperors. Huge stars exploded, and the qi rushed out for millions of miles, almost bringing disaster to the endless universe. The territories of the myriad races were affected by dozens of stars, and countless creatures died tragically. Angry roars and howls of grief gradually dissipated in the endless mountains and rivers. Apart from the great Tao rumbling and mourning for them, there was no one else who could help them. Tianmu Xingluo and Yinyang Dongfei gasped as they watched Yi Qinghan and Xia Ziluo leave. Their eyes were full of vigilance and shock. They had seen the fall of the Void Spirit Emperor with their own eyes, so they naturally knew that apart from Taiwa, the 2 of them were the ones who really killed the Void Spirit Emperor in this battle. 2 juniors in the divine martial realm had actually killed the spirit of a great emperor. Even if it was a great emperor who had been suppressed by the Tao fruit of the great emperor, it would still take them some time to kill it. Daoist Xingluo, the Kuang sect and the divine martial inheritance are mortal enemies. When the time comes, I hope you don't choose the wrong team. This Yi Qinghan must be eliminated. Yinyang Dongfei said in a low voice as he arrived and joined Tianmu Xinglu. My 3 disciples aren't bad either. It's hard to say who will be crowned as a great emperor. Besides, this great emperor might be able to reach the Tao ahead of time. All I lack now is the opportunity, Tianmu Xinglua said indifferently. Ha ha ha, brother Xinglua, you and I both know that our life force isn't enough to pass the tribulation. Once the great emperor tribulation comes, we'll be instantly killed unless we can get the divine medicine of life. But in this era, where would we get the medicine? Go to the forbidden area? We might be able to go in, but we won't be able to come out alive. Inyang Dongfei laughed bitterly. They had entered the great emperor realm but didn't dare to pass the great emperor tribulation. Only they knew this kind of sorrow and sadness. Tianmu Xinglua was expressionless. He had never given up on his desire to reach the Tao. If it didn't work in the end, he was willing to pay any price, even if he became the next dead spirit. In the depths of the primitive universe, Great Emperor Fu Su and Great Emperor Yuan were fighting with their lives to kill each other. They could devour the life force and soul of a great emperor. Even if they won this battle beautifully, they would have enough life force to search for that illusory immortality. Divine abilities and Tao techniques covered the sky and earth. A sword could pierce through the stars. A hand that embraced the stars could pluck the stars, reverse yin and yang, and the great emperor's blood dyed the sky. The life force dissipated very quickly. Great Emperor Fu Su was like that, and so was Great Emperor Yuan. The battle between these two was truly a battle between great emperors. Even great emperors wouldn't be able to withstand the shockwave. The stars were shattered, and everything within 1,000,000 miles was turned into ruins. They were both the strongest in the 9 heavens and 10 earth. Now that they were fighting to the death, neither of them retreated. Only in their hands could the great emperor weapons be called great emperor weapons. In the hands of others, even great emperor-level experts like Emperor Killer couldn't unleash even 10,000th of their battle strength. A sword that could cut through the stars and extend for millions of li. The primitive universe trembled, and dozens of starfields were affected. Great Emperor Fu Su dared to reverse yin and yang, and the great emperor's blood dyed the sky. With a sword, he stood proudly in the sky. His white robe was stained with blood, and he blocked Great Emperor Yuan from leaving. "Is it worth it?" Great Emperor Yuan asked indifferently. "It's worth it." Great Emperor Fu Su was exhausted, and his voice was hoarse. His life force had been absorbed by the old monster in the depths of the Forbidden Grounds. Even if he was at his peak now, he only had less than 80% of his peak strength when he was young. However, Great Emperor Yuan was different. He was at his peak strength when he was young, and because he had swallowed a divine herb, it was very disadvantageous to fight him. You have less than 50% of your life force left, and I have more than 60% left. Even if you are the strongest in the 9 heavens and 10 earths, you are still not my match. After killing you, I can sweep through the myriad of worlds with just 10% of my battle strength. Then, I will need more life force. If you don't want me to destroy the endless universe, then give up resisting. Give me your last life force. With half of your life force, I won't need to slaughter the common people for 1,000 years. Ha ha ha! Great Emperor Fu Su laughed bitterly. His roar shook the mountains and rivers, and spread into the sovereign domain. Thunder rumbled, and the great Tao wailed. What a helpless laugh! Tens of millions of li away, the Skull Great Emperor was suppressing the 6 Calamity Azure Dragon and Di Shang. Once the Skull Great Emperor unleashed his full power, they would not be on the same level. The Skull Great Emperor fought fiercely. At this moment, his desire for life force had reached an extreme. As long as he could devour the life force of these 2 great emperors, especially Di Shang's, he had devoured the yin-yang flower, and his life force was rich. It was the best tonic for the undead. Kakik, submit. Once I break through the great emperor tribulation, I will be the king. Everyone in the world will be ants, even great emperors. Boom. The Skull Great Emperor's fist shattered the sky dome and landed on the 6 Calamity Azure Dragon's body. The Tao body was torn into pieces and blood dyed the blue sky. Even after smashing a huge star, it still couldn't stop him from losing. Reincarnation Sword Tao. Xiao xiao xiao. Di Shang turned his body crazily and merged with his sword and attacked the Skull Great Emperor. A firefly dares to compete with the bright moon. Dragon Emperor Art. Roar roar. A huge bone dragon bared its fangs, wanting to devour the sky and suppress Di Shang. The sword in Di Shang's hand shattered, and then the Emperor's clothes cracked. His body crumbled and his life force dissipated. Chaos Rebirth. The 6 Calamity Azure Dragon burned his life force, and his palms formed a seal. Runes of the Great Tao danced in the sky, drowning the battlefield. Yin and Yang reversed, and heaven and earth cracked. All order was collapsing, and the chaotic universe was being reconstructed. He pushed his palms forward and attacked the Bone Dragon. The 2 Great Emperors' full-strength attacks could only match the Skull Great Emperor's peak attack. Their faces were pale, and they were forced to retreat. The Skull Great Emperor's battle bones were also dimming, and death chi filled the air. His life force was gone, and he was furious. He wanted to kill immediately, and just as he was about to use his full strength, a sharp arrow shot out from the periphery. It carried an 8th-grade flame, and with the great Tao of order and destruction, it pierced through the laws of space, and instantly arrived in front of him. Boom! The Skull Great Emperor punched the divine arrow, and the divine arrow shattered. He also took a step back, and the bones in his hand were ignited. However, he extinguished the fire in an instant. "Who is it? Get the hell out here!" The Skull Great Emperor shouted angrily, and he looked around coldly. He frowned when he realized that the arrow was shot from outside. Yi Qinghan was very fast, and he appeared not far away from the battlefield with Tai Hua. Xia Ziluo also appeared with the Yellow Springs Hell map, and she looked at the Skull Great Emperor with hatred. The Heavenly Dragon Sacred Dynasty was destroyed because of these dead spirits, and Xia Chentian was also sacrificed because of them. How could she not hate them? It's you. Where's Su Ling? The Skull Great Emperor was furious, and he had a bad feeling when he saw Tai Hua here. He's dead too, go down and join him. Yi Qinghan was furious, and he drew his divine bow. His true essence poured out, and 9 arrows were shot out. Xiao xiao xiao. The 9 arrows shot out, and they merged into one in the void, forming a huge flaming arrow that shot towards the Skull Great Emperor. Sky grasping. Xia Ziluo used all of his power. The 8 trigrams on his body spun at a high speed. The primitive power was mobilized and turned into his own power. His handsome face was a bit distorted. He shouted hoarsely, "Go down there and apologize to the countless creatures of Sky Dragon Holy Dynasty and my father." Boom! The sky-covering hand pressed down from the sky, and the Yellow Springs Hell map shot towards the Skull Great Emperor. At this moment, she showed what the best defense was: offense. Why would he need to defend when he couldn't attack? Di Shang and the 6 Disasters Azure Dragon were excited. They had originally thought that they were going to die for sure, but they hadn't expected Yi Qinghan and Xia Ziluo to arrive first. They immediately erupted with power and pressed down on the Skull Great Emperor from all directions, giving Yi Qinghan no choice but to resist. Boom! The Skull Great Emperor was furious, and he smashed Xia Ziluo's attack with a punch. Then, he charged toward Xia Ziluo, but the Yellow Springs Hell map blocked him. His punch seemed to have hit the sea, and it was powerless. Xia Ziluo's spiritual consciousness that was attached to the map was instantly destroyed. Ah! Pooh! A mouthful of essence blood spurted out like a blood sword, and Xia Ziluo fainted instantly. Her body fell into the void. Boom! The Skull Great Emperor suppressed Xia Ziluo, but he couldn't dodge Yi Qinghan's attack, so he took it head-on again. The divine arrow exploded, and Zhong Kuang suddenly shot out from the arrow, crashing into the skull Great Emperor's fist. The iron arm made of dragon bones shattered, and the fist cracked. Chapter 361. Ah! The Skull Great Emperor screamed as he frantically channeled his monarch power to break the Great Emperor's body and shoot it into the depths of chaos. Yi Qinghan's divine sense was heavily injured. Although it was just a strand, it was enough to make him cough blood. Pooh! Yi Qinghan spat out a mouthful of blood. However, the Skull Great Emperor had suffered a series of heavy blows, and most of his bones had been crushed by Emperor Killer and the Sixth Calamity Azure Dragon. His soul was on the verge of dissipating, and when he saw Tai Hua's excited expression, his hair stood on end. Xiao, the Skull Great Emperor immediately fled towards the Forbidden Grounds. Emperor descends. Boom! The Sixth Disaster's Azure Dragon expended its last bit of energy and slammed into the Skull Great Monarch's half-dead body, inflicting severe damage to its territorial sea. The Skull Great Monarch was left with only a small portion of his skeleton left. His soul was attached to the skeleton, and it instantly disappeared into the alternate dimension. Yi Qinghan couldn't chase after him. His divine sense was heavily injured, and with Xia Ziluo falling, he could only save her first. Xiao, Yi Qinghan flew away, flapping his wings as he shuttled through chaos. Xia Ziluo's purple dress fluttered in the wind. Her eyes were tightly shut as she fell into the void. Her hand was still holding onto the Yellow Springs hell map as if it was her last hope. Yi Qinghan grabbed her and placed a divine lotus seed into her sea of consciousness. He also placed an elixir that could nourish the soul spirit into her mouth. Then, he summoned the god-slaying eagle and sat cross-legged on it, quietly cultivating his divine senses. On the other side of the battlefield, Great Emperor Fu Su and Great Emperor Abyss fought until their hearts were in chaos. Although they were in the depths of chaos, they could clearly feel the danger in the depth. The shock waves could shatter the stars and bring disaster to the lightning region. Great Emperor Fu Su knew that he had lost. His life force was less than 10%. However, 10% was a difference of heaven and earth to a true Great Emperor. There was no chance at all. Emperor Shang and Six Disasters' Azure Dragon had just reached the periphery when they were swept away by the shockwave. The difference was too great. Take the elites and run. Run as far as you can. Great Emperor Fu Su cried as his life force was fading. Knowing that there was no hope of winning, he began to accumulate his last bit of energy and unleashed it crazily, forcing Great Emperor Abyss to retreat. Great Emperor! Di Shang and the Six Disasters' Azure Dragon were both Great Emperor Fu Su's juniors. At this moment, they were crying helplessly. Leave. There's no chance. Great Emperor Fu Su roared, and the last of his energy exploded in his sea of qi. He blew himself up, and the shock wave shattered countless star systems. The ancient universe shone with a light that affected the endless universe. He dared to throw yin and yang into chaos, daring to dye the heavens with the blood of emperors. Great Emperor Su Fu had done it, but the price was self-detonation. He had died a tragic death on the battlefield. If the mountains and rivers aren't here, what's the use of my broken body? The vicissitudes of life echoed in the universe, full of sadness and despair. The great emperor of a generation, who bemoaned the heavens and pitied the fate of mankind, had finally paid the price of self-destruction just to stop Emperor Yuan's footsteps. A solemn and stirring melody drifted over from the ancient times, drifting towards the boundless cosmos. Hearing this, tears fell. Heaven and earth rumbled. Divine light paved the way, and all methods emerged. Yi Qinghan suddenly looked up and could not hold back his tears. Great Emperor Fu Su had passed away just like that. Woo woo woo, cries sounded in countless corners of the boundless cosmos. Many living beings covered their faces and wept, unable to control themselves. The shock wave swept Dishang and the 6 disasters azure dragon away. Just the shock wave alone was enough to shatter their Tao bodies and severely injure their souls. Emperor Yuan roared, and the monarch weapon in his hand exploded just to protect his last 10% chance of survival. It's over, Dishang roared. He had paid the price of Great Emperor Fu Su's death, but he still could not kill Great Emperor Yuan. Was there any chance of survival in the boundless cosmos? Emperor Yuan's combat power was already heaven-defying. 10% of his strength was enough to defeat the great emperors. Moreover, Dishang and the 6 disasters azure dragon were already half dead. How could they have any strength left to fight against a great emperor like Emperor Yuan? Screech. Yi Qinghan did not care about repairing himself anymore. He directly ordered the god-slaying eagle to rush towards the monarch region. Yi Qinghan, take the elites and run. Take as many as you can. Leave some seeds for the human race. Dishang and the 6 disasters azure dragon looked at each other. They had already given up on the chance. If they ran, the myriad of living beings would not have the chance to escape. At this moment, they could only fight with Emperor Yuan and fight for Yi Qinghan's chance of survival. Yi Qinghan did not say anything. He rode the god-slaying eagle and rushed over. In the monarch region, the people of the Yin-Yang 8 tribes and the remnant sects heard Great Emperor Fu Su's final cry and knew that the human race had lost. They took their own people and fled, not caring about the myriad of living beings at all. Even Kanyang was abandoned. Outside the monarch region, the human race was furious. The myriad of living beings roared. Knowing that the human race and the myriad of living beings were finished, most of them gave up their lives and were willing to die together with the dead spirits in front of them. Instantly, light shone for 1,000 miles and blood flowed like rivers. Kill! Kill as many as you can! Zetian roared and punched through a fake Great Emperor dead spirit. The last 30 or so quasi-emperors of the myriad of living beings and the human race were also killed. It was so tragic that the combat divisions were wiped out. Even the heavenly palace god of the ancient massacre gods died tragically on the spot. Lin Aoqiong died in battle, and so did Dugu Baitian. Xiao Yuni and Feng Sha both died on the spot. Those who truly survived were all existences that could become great emperors. However, at this moment no one thought of becoming great emperors. They only thought of dying gloriously at the last moment. Many people fell 1 minute before dawn. However, when dawn arrived, the hope of the myriad of living beings was destroyed at dusk. The civilization that had been passed down for countless years was destroyed, just like that. Screech. Yi Qinghan rushed over from the primordial world, but he did not stop. Instead, he passed through the monarch region and fled into the depths of the endless universe, shocking countless people. Yi Qinghan escaped? Damn Yi Qinghan! You traitor! Everyone was furious. They did not expect Yi Qinghan to escape at the last moment. He only brought his spiritual pet and Tai Hua. He did not even bring the rest of the Kuang sect, including his best brothers, Sikong Qingjun and Gu Qingyu. The people of the Kuang sect were also dumbfounded. They did not expect Yi Qinghan to abandon them and leave on the god-slaying eagle. Impossible! Master can't have escaped. Si Wuxia was furious. His golden battle blood erupted and suppressed everyone. The dead spirits around him were directly suppressed by him. Then what is he doing now? Don't tell me he will come back? Someone was dissatisfied and questioned angrily. He can't escape, Gu Qingyu said hoarsely. Even if he escapes, it's better than dying with us. Why are you still wasting your breath? Kill. There are only a few quasi-emperor dead spirits left. Everyone, split them up. Even if we die, we must die standing. We must destroy these dead spirits. Qitian Monkey King was incomparably domineering. His staff swept across the sky, causing the earth to tremble. There were only a few geniuses who managed to kill their way out of this battle. Chitian Monkey King was one of them, and Long Qiong was slightly inferior. Boom! In the depths of the wilderness, Di Shang and Six Disasters' Azure Dragon looked at each other. They knew that there was no more chance, so they killed their way into the depths of the wilderness without hesitation. 10% of the great emperor's power shook the clouds. Emperor Yuan's battle prowess was far greater than Emperor Su Ling's. He reached out his palm and attacked Emperor Shang and the Six Disasters' Azure Dragon. Yin and Yang reversed, the sun and the moon cracked, and chaos restarted. Nothing could stop him. Puff! The two coughed out blood. Blood spurted out of their 7 orifices as they were sent flying. Run! Six Disasters' Azure Dragon warned the God Watchtower. He wanted to leave a legacy for the God Ghost sect. In the center of the sovereign domain, there were less than 100 people left. The casualties were extremely tragic, but none of the dead spirits escaped. They were all wiped out. Kuang's sect had less than 15 people left, and they were all heavily injured. Retreat! Gu Qingyu looked into the depths, clenched his fist, and shouted. Xia Qiue's body was pierced, and her flame of life was extinguished. She was carried on Si Wuxie's back and began to retreat. Everyone from Kuang's sect had left. Long Qiong and Chitian Monkey King looked at each other and left in different directions. In the ancestral land of the human race, Yi Qinghan knelt on the ground with tears of blood. The human race is about to perish. I beg Emperor Tianwu to lend me the great emperor's corpse and help me fight. I will not retreat, and the dead spirits will kneel in front of the ancestral land forever. The divine light of the great emperor's formation fluctuated and soared up, illuminating the sky. The laws in the ancestral land were restless, and the great Tao wailed. The tombstones emitted terrifying great Tao runes. The ancestors of the human race were all buried here. They represented protection and would fight to the death. Emperor Tianwu's tombstone exploded, and the coffin exploded. The great emperor's aura made the dead spirits around him not dare to breathe. The great emperor's corpse floated up and stepped out of the barrier. A great emperor's corpse without a soul obviously had no battle strength, but the will was still there. It would fight to the death. I beg Emperor Tianwu to lend me the great emperor's corpse and help me kill the dead spirits. Yi Qinghan kowtowed again. Thinking of great Emperor Su's self-destruction and the divine martial imperial code's willingness to die to protect his life, he could not help but cry. Emperor Tianwu did not say anything. He only stood in front of Yi Qinghan and glared at the desolate land. Yi Qinghan raised his head and looked at Emperor Tianwu's corpse. Until now, the human race only had one complete great emperor's corpse. The human race's victory or defeat would depend on whether Yi Qinghan could control the great emperor's corpse and kill Emperor Yuan Huang. Yi Qinghan's soul had left his body and occupied Emperor Tianwu's corpse. His mental strength was vast and far surpassed his peers. However, when he entered Emperor Tianwu's consciousness, he understood that he could control the great emperor's corpse like a 3-year-old child. He could not use even a fraction of its power. He could not even control it. Ah! Yi Qinghan roared unwillingly. His mental strength had reached its peak, but he could not even control a finger of the great emperor's corpse. The great emperor's consciousness was like an endless universe. No matter how strong one's mental strength was, it could not be stronger than a great emperor. The reason they could kill Emperor Su Ling and defeat the Skull Great Emperor was because of the Great Emperor's Tao fruit. It prevented them from using their full strength. Otherwise, how could a few juniors kill them? What should I do? Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse. He had never felt so helpless. Even if the Great Emperor's corpse helped him, he could not use it. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan summoned the parrot and used all the divine lotus seeds. He set up a formation in his consciousness and strengthened his mental strength. Then, he turned into armor with the 4 divine beasts. His soul became one, and his mental strength increased dramatically. Boom! The great emperor's corpse moved. It crushed mountains and rivers with one step and charged into the desolate land. The great emperor's aura was dense, as if a great emperor had arrived personally. It alarmed the weak forces of the imperial region who were preparing to escape, as well as the experts who had survived the battle. There are still great emperors alive. There is still hope for the endless universe. Yen Yunbei roared, Qitian Monkey King roared, and Kuang Zong roared. The entire imperial region was in an uproar. Kuang Zong, gather outside the ancestral land of the human race. Protect my golden body. No one is allowed to come close. The great emperor spoke. His voice was slightly hoarse, and it shocked everyone. Chapter 362. Everyone looked at the sky martial emperor's body in shock. Those from the insane sect trembled. It's master. He's using the emperor's corpse. Si Wuxia muttered. He was shocked speechless by Yi Qinghan's courage. It's Yi Qinghan. He can actually control the emperor's corpse. His mental energy. The heavens chosen sucked in a breath of cold air, not knowing what to say. Let's return to the ancestral land, Yi Qinghan said and rushed towards the desolate land, wanting to help Di Shang and the Six Calamities Azure Dragon. In the depths of the desolate land, Di Shang and the Six Calamities Azure Dragon's body crumbled. Their vitality was absorbed by the powerful Emperor Yuan, causing them to crumble even more. A bunch of ants, yet you insist on fighting with this emperor. Today I'll bury you. Emperor Yuan's hands covered the sky, wrapping around the two powerful Emperor Realm experts. Unfortunately, those who had not verified their Tao were as weak as children in front of those who had verified their Tao. Crack. The two experts' legs were broken, and their vitality was rapidly dissipating. Their hair turned white and they were past their prime. On the other hand, Emperor Yuan became more and more courageous as he fought. He took the vitality of the two for his own use. In the blink of an eye, he recovered 10% of his vitality. With 20% of his strength at his peak, Di Shang and the Six Calamities Azure Dragon struggled even more. They tried their best to resist, but their skin was rapidly aging, and they could not even counterattack. Yi Qinghan controlled the emperor's corpse to travel hundreds of thousands of miles in a single step. He crossed half of the mountains and rivers from the sovereign domain, shattering the space. Seeing the scene in front of him, he could not care less. 9 Heavens Tyrant Dragon Art 3rd Style, Heavenly Dragon 9 Rotation Style. Roar. The emperor's body transformed into a true dragon, and it was extremely powerful. It turned the desolate land's power into its own. The heavenly dragon coiled in the sky, crushing a star, and tore the 3 powerful existences into the whirlpool. Great Emperor Abyss was shocked. He didn't expect the human race to have another crippled great emperor. He didn't even think about it and wanted to run away. No matter how crippled a great emperor was, he still had 30 to 40% of his strength. He only had 20% of his strength. There was no way he could fight back. It was just like when great Emperor Fu Su fought against him. However, the tearing force was simply too powerful, making it impossible for him to move an inch. As for Emperor Killer and the 6 Disasters Azure Dragon, they were sucked away by him. No. We can't let him complete his strongest attack. Emperor Yuan was horrified as he felt the aura of death descending upon him. His own life force was beginning to dissipate. He immediately clenched his iron fists and punched at the dragon's body, beginning his counterattack. Roar. The dragon head rushed out of the whirlpool and opened its mouth to roar. Its fangs broke through the shackles and rushed toward the Abyss Emperor. The monarch body of the Abyss Emperor was shattered, and his blood dyed the land red. His soul was shaken to the point that it was about to disperse. With a miserable shriek, his soul fell back with his broken body. The Emperor descends from the heavens. Suppress. Yi Qinghan changed his moves extremely quickly. His soul could not hold out for long. If he could not kill his opponent in a short period of time, he would not have another chance. Forming a seal with both of his palms, the monarch body used the emperor's heavenly descent. Its power was dozens of times stronger than the 6 calamities' azure dragons. His palm pressed down on the broken emperor abyss, destroying everything in its path. What? He is. The 6 calamity azure dragons' Dao heart nearly collapsed. It only had 30% of its life force left. Together with Di Shang, it was swept tens of thousands of miles away from the battlefield by Yi Qinghan. As it looked at the center of the battlefield, it was speechless. It's the corpse of the Tianwu emperor. Yi Qinghan used the monarch body. Di Shang coughed up blood and quickly confirmed the situation. Boom! In the blink of an eye, Yi Qinghan's giant palm smashed into the body of the Abyss Emperor. His physical body was instantly shattered. His soul roared in anger, resounding through the heavenly river and the boundless universe. Sky's severing hand. Whoosh! The giant palm slashed down, trying to cut open the soul of the Abyss Emperor. However, he snatched it away in a sorry state. Prairie fire technique. Burning the heavens. Whoosh! 8th grade flames drowned the battlefield. Fire dragons roared, enveloping Yi Qinghan and the Abyss Emperor. Ah! The Abyss Emperor roared tragically. It was not easy for him to absorb more than half of the life force of Di Shang and the 6 calamities' azure dragon. It was almost certain that he would return to his peak strength. However, he did not expect another expert to appear and beat him back to his original state. His life force was less than 10%. You should die too. The Abyss Emperor was enraged. He tore the void apart and used the last bit of his strength to attack the Tianwu Emperor's physical body. The monarch body collapsed. Yi Qinghan rode on the broken monarch corpse and fell into the void. The space-time crack disappeared. The crack swallowed Yi Qinghan and the Abyss Emperor. The battlefield was dead silent. There was no longer any life force. Di Shang and the 6 calamities' azure dragon were stunned. They were speechless for a long time. He is dead. The 6 calamities' azure dragon murmured. Qinghan. Di Shang howled in grief as tears streamed down his face. Yi Qinghan had done him a great favor twice, and both times, he had saved his life. He had also brought up Di Longtian when he was only 6 years old. Di Shang could only watch helplessly as Yi Qinghan was buried. The desolate wilderness was silent. It was a sad silence. Not even a speck of dust was left. Brother Di Shang, my condolences. The 6 calamities' azure dragon sighed. He did not feel good. When Yi Qinghan was still alive, he had to be on guard. But now that he was dead, his heart was filled with sorrow. Sigh, let's go back. After this battle, the human race will be almost wiped out. Rest well. Di Shang smiled bitterly. He turned and left. His figure was filled with sorrow. The ancient killing god who had protected the human race for several eras was gone in the end. In the imperial domain, most of the experts were gathered in front of the ancestral land. Yi Qinghan's golden body was kneeling on the ground. No one touched it. Xia Ziluo was lying on the side. Tai Hua looked helplessly at the crowd. Di Shang and the 6 calamities' azure dragon returned. Everyone was stunned. The 2 monarch-level experts were past their prime. Their vitality was fading. At most, they could live for another 100 years. But what about Yi Qinghan? They were back. Why didn't Yi Qinghan appear? Jian Chenxua looked at the 2's expressions and had a bad feeling. He asked in a trembling voice, "Seniors, where is Brother Qinghan?" Yan Yunbei, Gu Qingyu, and the others looked at the 2. He left. Di Shang said sadly. As soon as he finished speaking, the people of the insane sect could not help but cover their faces and cry. The insane sect was too tragic in this battle. Apart from a dozen people, all the protectors were sacrificed. Most of the juniors were also dead. Only Shaoli did not participate in the battle because he was too young. Si Wuxie and Huang Xiaohu did not die. Lin Wutian was seriously injured. His flame of life could be extinguished at any time. Apart from Zi Tian, Mu Yu Tianchen, Gu Qingyu, and Xikong Qingjun, the other superclass experts were all killed. Only Jin Yan was left in Xikong Qingjuan's battle team. Shen Ke was stunned on the spot. He could not accept this outcome. Kenyang was also dumbfounded. Using the Emperor corpse, he was so powerful. He actually died so heroically. Qitian Monkey King and Long Qiong looked at each other and shook their heads. When Yi Qinghan was young, the gap between their realms was too big. They could not fight. Now that their realms were about the same, they did not have the time to fight. Di Longtian's eyes were hazy with tears. He hugged Yi Qinghan's golden body and cried loudly. He had only recognized two people in his life. One was old and the other was Tao dissolving. He could not bear it. Si Wuxie was silent. He clenched his iron fist. After a long time, he roared, "Master, sooner or later, I will destroy the Forbidden Land and make it disappear in the endless universe." Shirgu was lonely. Back then, he followed Yi Qinghan to the imperial domain with Feng Wuxie. Now only he was left. Feng Wuxie was gone. Yi Qinghan was also gone. Apart from crying, everyone was silent. "Bury him in the ancestral land. This is the glory he deserves," Di Shang said solemnly. Those who could be buried in the ancestral land were all great emperors and human sovereigns. They were all existences who had contributed greatly to the human race. Back then, when Di Shang faked his will to Tao dissolving, he was not buried in the ancestral land because he did not have the qualifications. Now, Yi Qinghan was buried in the ancestral land as a divine martial realm cultivator. This was definitely unprecedented. Today, all the dead spirits have come out, and the human race is about to be destroyed. Great Emperor Fu Su shed his blood for the human race, and he died in the untainted land. Yi Qinghan of the human race, in order to protect the human race, killed several great emperors, defeated one, and perished together with the dead spirit of great Emperor Yuan Huang. He saved the last hope of the human race and the endless universe. Although he is ranked in the divine martial realm, he has made contributions to the great Emperor. Please open the enchantment of the ancestral land and welcome the hero. Farewell, martyr. The experts did not look at each other. They were all in unison. The dead were above all. Although Yi Qinghan was very young, how could he not be worthy of everyone kneeling on one knee to send him off? Yi Qinghan's golden body was buried in the ancestral land. Di Shang built a cenotaph for great Emperor Yuan Huang. The two tombstones looked at each other, engraving their achievements in this life. In the sovereign domain, snowflakes danced. Emperor Yuan Huang's city was razed to the ground. Corpses were piled up like mountains and blood flowed like rivers. It was like hell on earth. Di Shang and the Six Disasters Azure Dragon gathered the remaining humans to clean up the battlefield. All the boundary emperors were sacrificed. There were no fake great emperors left. The divine martial realm was broken. Even the immortal sects had few survivors. Only Qitian Monkey King and Long Qiong left alone. They were so lonely. If there were great emperors among the 10,000 races, they would not have to fight so hard. The terrifying space-time storm instantly tore everything apart. The huge meteorites were annihilated and disappeared without a trace. Even though Yi Qinghan and Great Emperor Yuan Huang were swallowed by the space-time cracks, they glared at each other and attacked crazily. Their hands shattered the hurricane and slapped at each other. Whoosh! Terrifying true elemental energy and vast power rolled up. The hurricane in the boundless space erupted and drowned the two. Yi Qinghan had the support of the Tianwu Great Emperor's corpse, so he was still fine. However, Great Emperor Yuan Huang was already a spiritual body. His soul was instantly wiped out by the hurricane. His mournful roar could not penetrate the violent hurricane. Yi Qinghan swayed in the hurricane. Great Emperor's corpse was broken inch by inch. The eerie white bones could be seen clearly. His soul was hiding in the empty sea of consciousness. He and the four divine beasts were extremely shocked. F***ck. Master, I am dead because of you. The parrot wanted to cry but had no tears. He howled in grief. Yi Qinghan was silent. Even if he died in this battle, he had no regrets. It was better than abandoning the Kuang sect and fleeing. It is my honor to die in battle with Master. Although I can't reach the 9th grade, I am satisfied. The god-slaying eagle whispered. There was no trace of regret in its eyes. The multicolored snake was cold. Since it had signed a contract with Yi Qinghan's soul, there was nothing to say. As for the fire crow, it had no right to say anything. Swoosh, 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 Yi Qinghan kept controlling the great emperor's corpse to dodge. However, the hurricane was like a great emperor's weapon. It tore the great emperor's corpse apart easily. The great emperor's corpse could not feel anything. However, Yi Qinghan's soul could feel it. The tearing pain was unbearable. Chapter 363. Work with me. Let's see if we can find a way out and tear open space to leave this place. Yi Qinghan did not panic in the face of danger. The Tianwu Emperor's legs were torn apart by the hurricane and were completely destroyed. His sovereign blood was drowned and his mental power was at its peak. However, he still could not break through the hurricane and could not sense the space outside. Instead, his divine sense was heavily injured. Ah! Yi Qinghan screamed as he looked at the hurricane in the distance. Seeing that it was about to engulf this place, he no longer cared about where he would end up by tearing open space. He used his sovereign body to tear open a small crack and charged into another spacetime. No one knew if Yi Qinghan was tearing open a different space or a violent void. Even Yi Qinghan did not know. Let's see how lucky I am. Yi Qinghan lost control of his body and his soul was extremely weak. As he traveled through space, he was swept up by the hurricane and his body was completely destroyed. The Tianwu Emperor's corpse disappeared without a trace. Yi Qinghan used his last bit of strength to enter another space. Space-time was dark. Yi Qinghan only had his soul left. He also fell unconscious and felt that he was rapidly falling. A trace of his divine sense floated down, but it was empty and could not reach the bottom. Yi Qinghan tried his best to not fall unconscious. At this time, if he fainted, his soul could be destroyed at any time. Cold Water Star seemed to be at the edge of the endless universe. However, the stars of the endless universe did not have this star. At least, Yi Qinghan had never heard of it. Below, experts were rampaging and young experts were fighting. There was someone who swept through everything and had the potential to prove his Tao. A young expert of the Immortal Gate Stage 9 was extremely powerful and invincible. He was not any weaker than Gu Qingyu back then. His physical body was also first-rate. He held a sharp sword in his hand and fought everywhere. Killing intent shot out in all directions as he approached the Demon Spirit Mountain. This was a huge battlefield where all living things could not escape the fate of war. Xuechen was the name of this youth. He was a rogue cultivator whose name shook the world. He had the potential to prove his Tao. At this moment, he was stepping into the Demon Spirit Mountain battlefield. His eyes were bright like stars and he looked like jade. He did not show any fear. Whoosh! A quasi-emperor personally made a move, silently piercing Xiao Chen's throat. Then, the sword qi entered Xiao Chen's heart. An outstanding talent of a generation fell. This scene made everyone tremble in fear. Xuechen had never imagined that the quasi-emperor would personally deal with him. Unfortunately, he was only a loose cultivator and did not have a powerful guardian. Otherwise, who knew if he could attain the Tao? Boom! Xue Chen's sword pierced into the mountain and fell to the ground. His eyes glared at the sky, unwilling to die just like that. The quasi-emperor sheathed his sword and left without even looking back. Yi Qinghan's soul took advantage of the situation, and without any hesitation, he took over Xue Chen's corporeal body with the souls of the 4 divine beasts. Xue Chen's corporeal body was not completely dead, but Xue Chen's soul had already been annihilated. His sea of consciousness was empty. As soon as Yi Qinghan entered his sea of consciousness, he quickly occupied it and took control of it. The wood element automatically healed his wounded body, but his soul was exhausted and he fainted. The quasi-emperor's attack alarmed the experts in the demonic spirit battlefield. They all retreated from the battlefield and rushed toward Xue Chen's physical body. It's Xue Chen. Which quasi-emperor did he offend? He actually provoked a quasi-emperor to attack him. A powerful heavenly demon said in a deep voice, "This is too much. If all quasi-emperors act like this, how can there be a Tao affirmation cultivator?" A straightforward youth looked at Xue Chen's corpse and was very dissatisfied. If he has no background, he should be quiet and wait. Xue Chen is too strong. Sooner or later, he will be burned. More people were gloating, unwilling to speak for a corpse. Whoosh! A beautiful woman stepped on a snow butterfly and came over. Behind her were 2 beautiful girls. Her starry eyes scanned the experts and locked onto Xue Chen, who was lying on the ground. This woman was the young master of the Butterfly Valley, Qi Bingfei. She was blessed by the heavens and her cultivation had already reached the middle stage of the divine martial realm. She was absolutely invincible among her peers. Together with Xue Chen, Huarudong, and Xiao Canghai, they were known as the 4 kings of the frigid water. "Young master, it's Xue Chen. It seems like he's dead." The 2 girls bowed and said, "Bring him back and bury him." A cold light flashed in Qi Bingfei's eyes as she said coldly. Qi Bingfei stepped on the air and left. The snow butterfly was very fast. The 2 girls behind her carried Xue Chen's corpse and rushed into the distance. Yi Qinghan was dizzy at this moment. His soul had suffered great damage and had sunk into darkness. He could only feel that his body was being taken away, but he could not perceive the situation in the outside world. The wood origin profound repaired part of the wound on his throat and then rushed to his heart. The origin profound gathered and refined the heart. Once the heart was dead, the soul could no longer control the body and could only go out of the body to find a suitable body. Yi Qinghan was very satisfied with Xue Chen's body and was not willing to change it anymore. As time passed, the broken heart was almost completely repaired. The blood vessels could flow again. The powerful wood origin profound made the blood cells become active again and blood flowed into the heart. Thump, thump, thump. The weak heartbeat startled the 2 girls and they turned pale with fright. "Young Valley Master, it seems like Xue Chen is still alive," the 2 girls said happily. Qi Bingfei abruptly turned around and looked at Yi Qinghan's face that was gradually regaining its color. She placed her finger on Yi Qinghan's pulse and felt a faint heartbeat, causing a trace of astonishment to appear on her calm face. A quasi-emperor had personally taken action, yet Yi Qinghan had managed to escape with his life. Whoosh! A snow-white elixir was injected into Xue Chen's body. A large amount of vitality combined with the wood origin profound quickly healed his injured body. Even his severely injured soul felt as if it was bathing in divine light. It was very comfortable. Yi Qinghan took the opportunity to recover his soul. Color gradually returned to his face. "I'm so lucky. Someone actually helped me escape this disaster." Yi Qinghan finally regained the ability to think. He sent his divine sense into every corner of his knowledge sea. Xue Chen's soul had been completely wiped out. Not a single memory was left for Yi Qinghan. He had no idea who was helping him. "Bring him back to Butterfly Valley." "Don't tell anyone about this," Qi Bingfei said indifferently. "Young Valley Master, Butterfly Valley does not allow men to enter." This has been the rule for generations. The two girls reminded her awkwardly. Rules are set by people. Why are you talking so much nonsense? I'll talk to Master. Qibingfei frowned and scolded softly. In Butterfly Valley, snow butterflies fluttered. The sky and water were the same color. There were green mountains and clear waters. Waterfalls fell from the sky. Dozens of huge palaces surrounded the valley. There were also small bridges and flowing water. Bamboo courtyards stood on the surface of the water. It was a magnificent sight. Send him to my illusory bamboo residence. I'll talk to Master, Qibingfei said and turned to walk toward a large hall in the valley. The two girls carried Yi Qinghan across the bamboo bridge and walked all the way to the bamboo courtyard in the center of the lake. They placed him in a side room. The room was very simple but had a classical beauty. A fragrance assailed the nose. Lotus flowers bloomed. The surroundings were lush and green. Willows hung down and swayed with the wind, creating layers of ripples. It was a magnificent sight. The girls left. Yi Qinghan's soul had recovered a little. He had also gained control of his body. With a slight movement of his fingertips, he could gradually move his entire body. He opened his eyes and looked at the simple room. He exhaled a turbid breath. Whoosh! The divine bird separated from his soul and appeared on the bed. It was almost unscathed. Tisk tsk tsk. Master's luck is not bad. The environment here is quite good. It's a paradise, the parrot said proudly after escaping death. The god-slaying eagle was severely injured and was still unconscious in the sea of consciousness. The same was true for the fire crow. However, the colorful snake was the least injured. Yi Qinghan exhaled a turbid breath. His combat power was almost exhausted. If he did not have someone to protect him, he would not be able to survive in this unfamiliar environment. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows. He ignored the parrot and sat up slowly. His soul was torn apart by the tearing pain. His face was distorted and his bloody clothes emitted an unpleasant smell. He probed his divine sense into the Qianquan ring and found that Xue Chen's belongings were really pitiful. Other than a few clothes to change into, there was not even a decent treasure. To be able to reach this stage, his talent was definitely heaven-defying. Yi Qinghan took off his clothes and changed into a brand new set of purple robes. He sighed and said, "What a pity! The heavens are jealous of geniuses. Otherwise, even if you could not prove your Tao, you could still become an emperor-level existence." The parrot smiled embarrassedly and said flatteringly, "This is the body that the heavens prepared for you. However, this fellow actually offended a quasi-emperor. I'm afraid that our future days will not be easy." "It doesn't matter. A quasi-emperor is nothing in my eyes. With the colorful snake by my side, he can't do anything to me." Yi Qinghan revealed a cruel smile. Even if the other party did not make a move in the future, he would still seek justice for a genius like Xue Chen. Although the colorful snake was slightly injured, its combat power had increased. After devouring a portion of the Emperor's blood and a portion of the Void Spirit Emperor's soul, its bloodline power had evolved to the middle of grade 8. Its lethality had increased. The colorful snake is indeed not bad. However, with this divine bird by your side, I will destroy anyone who dares to harm a single hair on your head." The parrot was incomparably arrogant. It moved its little claws and summoned a black bronze mirror. The Emperor's runes flickered with an oppressive pressure. Yi Qinghan's brows trembled. He said hoarsely, "Reincarnation mirror? When did you get it? Put it away." The parrot smiled cheekily and put away the reincarnation mirror. When you were beating up the Void Spirit Emperor, the reincarnation mirror fell. I took it with me. The Void Spirit Emperor died, but it did not resist. Perhaps it was intimidated by the might of the all-beast Divine Emperor and was willing to submit. Humph! Yi Qinghan snorted and got off the bed. He walked out of the bamboo door and met Qibingfei's eyes. "What a beautiful girl," the parrot said recklessly. Shwa. The colorful snake coiled around Yi Qinghan's waist and stuck out its forked tongue vigilantly. Qi Bingfei was so frightened that her expression changed drastically, and she retreated. Thank you for saving my life, fairy. I will do my best to repay you in the future. Yi Qinghan bowed slightly and said seriously. Qi Bingfei looked at the colorful snake. Her snow-white skin was covered in goosebumps, as if she was very afraid of snakes. She retreated to the railing and shouted with a frown, "You are not Xueqin. Who are you?" Yi Qinghan looked at the beauty and his expression changed. He waved his hand and withdrew the colorful snake. He cupped his fists and said, "Sorry to offend you, fairy. I am Yi Qinghan. When I took over this body, the Xueqin you knew was already dead." His soul was wiped out by the raging fire sword Qi. He did not even have a trace of memory. Raging fire sword Qi? Yi Qinghan? Qi Bingfei clenched her fists. Her eyes were full of vigilance, and a trace of killing intent flashed in them. Yi Qinghan took a step back and felt the killing intent. He immediately said, "Fairy, Xueqin's death has nothing to do with me. I only took over his body by chance. I hope you don't blame me." Chapter 364. Yi Qinghan and Qi Bingfei faced each other. Their auras were suppressed, and the multicolored snake coiled around him again. They did not dare to slack off at all. Yi Qinghan did not have any power to resist. Qi Bingfei stared coldly at Yi Qinghan and the multicolored snake. She had already unsheathed her sword. "Who are you? Why did you coincidentally occupy Xueqin's body?" Qi Bingfei asked cautiously. "I am Yi Qinghan from the sovereign domain. After experiencing a spatial storm, I lost my body, and my soul just so happened to fall here. May I know which star region of the endless universe this is? How far is it from the sovereign domain?" Yi Qinghan asked repeatedly. "Sovereign domain? Endless universe?" Qi Bingfei frowned, as if she had never heard of these two names. Yi Qinghan was astonished. It might not be a big deal if she had never heard of the sovereign domain, but how could she not have heard of the endless universe? This was the general name of the entire universe. Even the people of a small planet like the Xiaolong region had heard of it. This woman was already at the early stage of the divine martial realm. How could she not have heard of the endless universe? The parrot was even more astonished. It muttered, "Could it be that we have transmigrated to another universe? That's impossible. How come I have never heard of another universe?" Qi Bingfei saw that Yi Qinghan's expression did not seem to be fake. This little bird would not say such words. Only then did she believe that Yi Qinghan was not the one who had assassinated Xueqin. "Please leave Butterfly Valley," Qi Bingfei said in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan looked at the woman in front of him and said hoarsely, "My divine sense has been severely injured and I cannot fight anymore. Can you tell me the most basic situation of this planet? So that I can be mentally prepared." "Sorry, I do not know you. I do not trust you. You can choose to leave now or choose to die," Qi Bingfei said indifferently. The parrot rolled its eyes and sighed. "To think that I, a divine bird, can find all the treasures in the world. Today I have fallen to the point of being expelled. Sigh, I am not afraid of a strong opponent. I am only afraid of a weak opponent." Qi Bingfei's jade-like eyebrows furrowed. She glared at the parrot with cold eyes. The entire cold water star knew that she was a stunning and peerless beauty. She was extraordinarily intelligent, and her fighting prowess wasn't inferior to any hero. No one had ever dared to evaluate her like this. But today she was despised by a little bird. "Little bird, since you're just a small bird with flat feathers, I won't bicker with you. If you dare to spout nonsense again, I'll pluck all your feathers," Qi Bingfei angrily rebuked. "This divine bird is not some little bird. I am the spirit-devouring divine eagle. There is no treasure in this world that can escape my eyes. Don't believe me? There's an ancient divine medicine hidden in the mountain behind your house. It's called the Green Mountain Snow Lotus. It's about to take human form, isn't it? Qi Bingfei sucked in a breath of cold air and swallowed her saliva. She gripped her sword even tighter. Looks like I have to kill you all, Qi Bingfei said coldly. Yo, little lady, don't mess around. Do you know how we got here? Do you know what kind of earth-shattering thing this jade-like master of mine has done? Just by you? I'm afraid that little snake will swallow your head into its stomach and spit it out before you can do anything, the parrot threatened. Qi Bingfei remained silent and stared at Yi Qinghan. She couldn't see what was so special about him. The parrot saw her fear and immediately said, My master killed 2 great emperors in a row. One of them fled, and the other got sucked into the space-time turbulence. That's how we ended up here. Although he's severely injured, it's still very easy for him to kill you. Fairy, don't take it to heart. This divine bird likes to exaggerate things. Although I did kill one great emperor, drive away the other, and perish together with the other, it wasn't all my credit. Most of it was the credit of others. I don't have any evil intentions. Moreover, Fairy saved my life. I'll definitely repay you in the future. Yi Qinghan smiled. One was playing the good cop, the other was playing the bad cop. His cooperation with the parrot was seamless. Qi Bingfei was really stunned. Qi Bingfei's mouth twitched. Her eyes were full of suspicion. She hadn't heard of the Imperial Region or the Endless Universe, but she should know what a great emperor was. If Fairy is willing to provide me with basic information and allow me to recuperate here for 10 days, I'll definitely repay you handsomely, Yi Qinghan said softly and bowed slightly. I can give you basic information, but you can't stay in Butterfly Valley. Butterfly Valley doesn't take in men, let alone someone of unknown origin like you. Qi Bingfei rejected Yi Qinghan's request without hesitation. Snap! Yi Qinghan snapped his fingers and signaled the parrot. The parrot was smart. It took out a divine lotus seed from its yin and yang ring. It shone with golden light and handed it to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan held the divine lotus seed in his hand and walked towards Qi Bingfei. He said softly, I trust you and am willing to entrust my life to you. If you want to kill me, you can do so with one strike. If you trust me, please accept this divine lotus seed and allow me to recuperate for a few days. Once my soul is 50% better, I'll leave immediately. Qi Bingfei's eyes flashed. She could see the value of the divine lotus seed in Yi Qinghan's hand. 1 divine lotus seed in exchange for 10 days of rent. This was definitely a worthwhile deal. The only thing she had to worry about was whether Yi Qinghan was in danger. But Yi Qinghan was too weak to even stand up to a gust of wind. 1 strike would take his life. Even the rainbow snake didn't have time to counterattack. This meant that Yi Qinghan didn't have any ill intentions. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to do such a thing. Qi Bingfei wanted to take the divine lotus seed, but the rainbow snake was wrapped around Yi Qinghan's waist. She didn't dare get close, but she didn't want to give up the divine lotus seed. She wanted to advance, but she didn't want to retreat. Her expression made the parrot laugh. It took the divine lotus seed into her hand and placed it in her hand. Little girl, cooperating with this divine bird will benefit you, the parrot said proudly. Watch your mouth. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Qi Bingfei scolded. Fine, fine, fine. Master needs to recover. Give me some pills and I'll take you on a treasure hunt. How about it? The parrot said wretchedly. Qi Bingfei was also stunned by the parrot. This bastard seemed to know everything. It was more shrewd than most people. It was like an old fox that had lived for tens of thousands of years. It was terrifyingly shrewd. This is the divine snow pill. It's most effective for soul injuries. It's an 8th grade pill. There are only 2 of them. It's not any less valuable than your divine lotus seed. Qi Bingfei motioned for the parrot to give the pills to Yi Qinghan. Then she said to the divine bird, Since you can find the world's treasures, you have to compensate me double. The parrot flapped its wings and gave the pills to Yi Qinghan. It blinked its eyes to take credit. Then it turned and flew back to Qi Bingfei. It whispered, "Don't let anyone get close to my master. If he doesn't die, don't blame me for not warning you." Humph. Qi Bingfei snorted and glared at Yi Qinghan. Then she turned and left. Yi Qinghan returned to his room. He first cultivated for an hour. Then he swallowed a lotus seed and placed it in his sea of consciousness to nourish his soul. The rainbow snake coiled up on the bed and stared at the door. Even if a boundary emperor walked in unguarded, it would be difficult for him to escape death. When Qi Bingfei left the bamboo courtyard, she ordered 2 maids to guard the bamboo bridge. No one was allowed to come close. Then, Qi Bingfei brought the parrot and flew towards the demon spirit battlefield. The parrot kept chattering. Qi Bingfei did not know if it was trying to gather information or was deliberately talking nonsense. It spoke one sentence after another without any rhyme or reason. Qi Bingfei was speechless. "Beauty, what's the name of your planet?" "Cold Water Planet." "Beauty, do you never go out to the outside world? Why don't you know about the endless universe?" Cold Water Planet is connected to the demon spirit battlefield. It's surrounded by nothingness. It has been cut off from the outside world for hundreds of thousands of years. It's natural that you don't know about the outside world. "Beauty, how old are you? Do you have someone you like? What do you think of my master?" "He's 20 years old and has yet to marry. His cultivation is the same as yours. However, his battle prowess, tsk. It's not that this divine bird is looking down on you, but 10 of you wouldn't be able to withstand a single finger from him. Beauty, who's the strongest person on Cold Water Planet? Is there a great emperor?" "Beauty, can't you shut up?" The divine bird rolled its eyes and looked at the dark and gloomy demon spirit battlefield. It flew higher and higher and had a panoramic view of the demon spirit battlefield. Suddenly, its wings trembled and it almost fell down. Holy shit! How is this the demon spirit battlefield? This is the primordial purgatory. It's a hell that exiles traitors. There's no way out. It's over. This godforsaken place. Qi Bingfei was stunned. Ancient purgatory? She had never heard of this name before. "What's the ancient purgatory?" Qi Bingfei asked curiously. The parrot looked at Qi Bingfei's innocent face and shook its head. It did not want to tell her the truth. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to take it. "Speak." Qi Bingfei gritted her teeth. She was actually being pulled by the nose by a little bird. This was simply unbearable. "Are you sure you want to hear it? You'll regret it," the parrot said in a muffled voice. "I won't regret it. If you don't say it, I'll make you regret it," Qi Bingfei said angrily. She had lost control of her emotions. The ancient purgatory is actually a prison, a place where criminals are exiled. Moreover, they are unforgivable criminals, traitors, and those who betrayed the universe. They are people who have sided with the undead and helped the evildoers. There are some powerful people whose crimes don't warrant death, and ordinary prisons can't hold them. An emperor and 2 great emperors opened up a separate space and exiled all of them here. There is very little life force here, and the environment is very harsh. It's not suitable for humans to live here, so it's better to just kill them. The parrot stared at Qi Bingfei and said seriously, "This ancient purgatory originally didn't have any living creatures. There were only a few withered weed. It was very dangerous. However, there were also many opportunities. There were many treasures that appeared in the primal chaos era. It was a place that the great emperors would definitely come to when they wanted to gain experience. Later, the great emperors and emperors emptied the surrounding space and turned it into a separate space. This is the ancient purgatory." Qi Bingfei seemed to have thought of something. Her body trembled and her face turned pale. The parrot bitterly smiled and continued, "You're right. On this planet, everyone is a descendant of sinners. Even you are a descendant of traitors. Perhaps you don't understand what defectors mean, but I can tell you that the endless universe is made up of countless stars. Every star has countless living beings, especially the sovereign domain, which is vast and boundless with countless experts. But just a few days ago, almost all of them died. Trillions of living beings died because of undead spirits and defectors. Even great sovereigns and emperors couldn't escape death. They slaughtered without any scruples, plundering life, and bringing calamity to the common people. These are defectors. Chapter 365. Qi Bingfei was in a trance. She couldn't accept the parrot's words. She was actually the descendant of a traitor. Sigh, these are all matters of the past. Don't take it to heart. What the ancestor did has nothing to do with you. The parrot looked at Qi Bingfei, who was in low spirits, and sighed. The immemorial purgatory was barren. There were rocks everywhere. There were no signs of life. The deeper one went, the more dangerous it was. However, there were signs of life gradually appearing. The parrot displayed its strength. No treasure could escape its eyes. In a chaotic world, everything would change. Even a small star at the border would change because of a genius. Alpha star was originally a small star. It wasn't even a fourth-grade star. There wasn't even a fifth-grade force in it. But now, it had become the strongest force in dozens of star regions. Lu Outyen comprehended the great Tao of reincarnation with the fifth-grade reincarnation sword technique that Yi Qinghan gave him. The reincarnation sword swallowed all laws. At this moment, Lu Outyen was the great Tao of reincarnation. In front of him, order would change. When a great Tao was cultivated to great success, everything would change because of one's will. The Lulan army was no longer limited to the Alphal Star or the Owl Dragon region. The flag of the Lulan army could be found in more than 10 star regions near the Owl Dragon region. They had gathered thousands of war kings of a region. They had reached the Immortal Gate realm, and there were more than 10 commanders in the Divine Martial realm. Lu Outyen was not only talented in commanding an army, he was also talented in controlling people. No one was better than him at winning people's hearts. Xiaoqiue had his talent in commanding an army. Yi Qinghan was more talented than him. However, in terms of controlling people and controlling people's hearts, Yi Qinghan and Xiaoqiue were no match for him even if they worked together. The king of Lulan, Lu Outyen. His name was enough to make his enemies tremble in fear. The Lulan monarch's residence was majestic and vast. It was built on the territory of Kuang sect. The inner residence was in Kuang sect. Lu Outyen relied on this place to rise. The king of Lulan, the world's Jade Prince, no one could compare to him. This was the Lulan dynasty's evaluation of Lu Outyen. It was not an exaggeration. Lu Outyen was dressed in green as he floated into the sovereign king's palace. Only the father and mother generation of the Lulan dynasty lived here. However, the person with the highest status here wasn't the retired emperor or the empress dowager of Lulan. It was Wang, Yi Qinghan's mother. Wang Shi's appearance had long been restored. She had returned to her original appearance. Time had only left a few traces on her body. She was luxurious but refined. She was graceful and elegant. She was extremely noble. At this moment, she was watering the flowers and taking care of the trees. Proud Heaven has come to pay his respects to Auntie. Lu Outyen bowed slightly. His vigorous face was filled with respect. It was easy to be like this for a day. However, 10 years was like a day. One could see that he was really grateful to Yi Qinghan. If he hadn't given him the reincarnation sword technique and explained his understanding of cultivation, he might have been able to reach this step. However, it would have taken a lot of time. Proud Heaven, you don't have to pay your respects every day since you're busy with politics. I'm an old woman. It's enough for me to have these flowers to accompany me. When you're free, you can drink tea and chat with your parents. It's not boring. Wang Shi smiled and helped Lu Outyan up. Brother Qinghan isn't here. As his brother, I naturally have to pay my respects on his behalf. Auntie, you don't have to treat me as an outsider. Proud Heaven is your second son. Lu Outyan smiled and helped Wang Shi into the hall. Sigh, I wonder how Qinghan and Mengxi are doing. It would be great if they were half as filial as you. I won't ask for much. I only hope that they can come back occasionally when they're old. Unfortunately, it's just wishful thinking. Wang Shi sighed. Auntie, don't be too sad. Brother Qinghan might be delayed by something. He'll come back with Mengxi to visit you in a few days. Lu Outyan smiled and comforted her. I hope so. This place is too far from the sovereign domain. Otherwise, I'd really want to see these two children personally. Wang Shi smiled. However, her smile was filled with worry and sadness. I've already sent people to the sovereign domain to investigate. They should be back in a few days. Maybe Brother Qinghan will come back with them. Lu Outyan comforted her. I'll have to trouble you, child. You're so filial. You're already the emperor of dozens of starfields, and you're still so respectful to me. I'm already content. You can be considered half a son to me. I'm happy to have you come to greet me every day. You should go and do your work. I'll visit your mother in the afternoon. Wang Shi looked at Lu Outyan with satisfaction. Lu Outyan bowed and left. He returned to the main hall. The main hall was filled with 9 dragon pillars. It was incomparably majestic. The surroundings were filled with spirit crystals. The decorations here didn't look like an imperial palace at all. Instead, it looked like the insane sect. Lu Outyan patted the dragon throne lightly and whispered, "Has the person I sent to the sovereign domain returned?" Swish. A divine martial expert bowed and walked in. He said respectfully, "King Lu, King Mingqing has returned. He's waiting for your summons." Lu Outyan's eyes flashed. He quickly said, "Let him in." A handsome youth with a jade-like demeanor walked in quickly. His battle strength was extremely high. He was at the 5th layer of the Immortal Gate. "King Lu, Mingqing didn't let you down. I spent a year to investigate and successfully returned using the Region Gate." Mingqing knelt on one knee and said respectfully. Lu Outyan's fingertips trembled. Looking at Mingqing's expression, he knew something had happened. He waved his hand and signaled for everyone to leave. Only Mingqing remained. "Mingqing, get up and sit down," Lu Outyan said. Mingqing's face was pale. He took a deep breath. After a while, he looked around and whispered, "King Lu, something happened in the sovereign domain." Lu Outyan clenched his fist and narrowed his eyes at Mingqing. He asked, "Tell me directly. What happened in the sovereign domain? Where's Brother Qinghan? Where's Mengxi?" Almost all the dead spirits of the Forbidden Grounds came out and shattered the Emperor domain. All the great emperors who came out died, the quasi-emperors were wiped out, and the fake great emperors were wiped out. Not a single one was left. The most powerful Dao realm Holy Land was wiped out, and the ancient massacre god was also wiped out. Lord Yi. Mingqing swallowed his saliva and sighed. He had a Tai Hua by his side, who was a great Emperor Dao Fruit. Lord Yi and the great Emperor Dao Fruit worked together and killed the souls of 2 great emperors in a row. They defeated the dead spirit of one great emperor, and in the end, they used the great emperor corpse to perish together with the last strongest great emperor. Kacha Lu Outyan's cold light shot out. It was like a sword of reincarnation that wanted to swallow mountains and rivers. Lu Outyan stared at Mingqing and exhaled. After a long silence he asked, "Where's Mengxi?" "Fairy Mengxi is fine. There are still some people left in the insane sect. They're rebuilding the sect," Mingqing said. "Remember, don't let a third person know about what happened today. If it reaches Aunt Ye's ears, the consequences, do you understand?" Lu Outyan said coldly. "I understand. I've never been to the sovereign domain." Mingqing bowed and retreated. Lu Outyin leaned on the dragon throne. His breathing was a bit rapid as he narrowed his eyes and looked outside the palace. Brother Qinghan, I didn't think that we would be parting forever. However, I didn't misjudge you. To be able to kill 2 great emperors in a row, you didn't disgrace the title of War King of the Owl Dragon region. Ao Tian will take over your Dao. I'll never forget your kindness. From today onwards, Aunt Yi is my mother. In 3 months at most, I'll lead the army to conquer the endless universe and reach the sovereign domain. I'll lead the army to protect the sovereign domain. Lu Outyin slowly stood up and said, Shadow, let the great leader cultivate the god-slaying formation. Also, you'll personally supervise the excavation of the divine tomb. Send more people and speed up the time. 3 months. In just 3 months, the Lulan dynasty will unite the endless universe and push towards the sovereign domain. Yes, King Lu. A shadow flashed and disappeared from the imperial palace. The Tomb of the Gods was a huge tomb from an unknown era. It was buried in the depths of a dead star and was accidentally discovered by an army. Because of that, Lulan had undergone tremendous changes. During the initial excavation work, they obtained an iron book on the art of war. The offensive formations recorded in the book were simply terrifying. When thousands of low-level cultivators worked together, they could instantly kill a high-level cultivator. When the Immortal Gate cultivators worked together, they could kill a peak divine martial realm cultivator. If hundreds of battle kings worked together, they could kill a fake emperor. When thousands of them worked together, no one knew how powerful they would be. It was absolutely terrifying for an Immortal Gate cultivator to kill a fake emperor. Lu Outyin returned to the secret chamber and waved his hand. An iron scroll emitting great Dao runes appeared in his hand. It was called Songhai Imperial Scripture. The Blue Ocean Imperial Scripture was also a secret technique found in the Divine Tomb. Countless people had died for this secret technique. Lu Outyin had gone through untold hardships to obtain it. With this Imperial Scripture and the Reincarnation Dao, he was invincible and his emperor's aura was very dense. In the Lulan dynasty, there was a Star Lord on every star. They were also the commanders of Lulan. Each star only had 100,000 soldiers. Choosing 100,000 soldiers from a star meant that their cultivation was definitely top-notch. Moreover, their willpower and mentality had to be tested. The Lulan Iron Cavalry was not that easy to join. They only recruited 300 people every year. Out of billions of people, only 300 people would be chosen. Without extraordinary talent and strength, who would dare to join the Lulan Iron Cavalry? Each star had 100,000 soldiers, and each star domain had at least 30 to 50 stars. The Lulan dynasty had conquered dozens of star domains, and its army had already reached tens of millions. Its individual soldiers were not weak, and with the support of the god-slaying formation, the current Lulan dynasty was not inferior to the Dao realm holy grounds or the ancient massacre god, except for the lack of quasi-emperors. Shwa 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 in hundreds of planets, there was a troop of cavalry cultivating, using their flesh and blood to forge the god-slaying formation. The power of Lulan had reached a boiling point. The people of the planets they occupied were united, supporting Lulan. Lu Ao Tian had announced the law. No matter if it was a mortal or a cultivator, it was extremely strict. If the imperial family broke the law, they would be punished the same as the commoners. No one in the imperial family of Lulan dared to use their power to oppress others because Lu Ao Tian had personally crushed more than 10 imperial bloodlines. On a dead star, dozens of divine martial experts and thousands of immortal sects were excavating the divine tomb. The divine tomb's formation had been through countless eras and stood strong. However, its power was not even 1/10,000th of it. They were very careful and almost dug through the entire dead star to find the life gate. The progress was very slow. It had been 8 years since this star was discovered, but they still had not dug it out completely. This showed how difficult it was to excavate this ancient tomb. Boom! The last line of defense was broken through. The interior of the ancient tomb could be seen clearly. A green wooden coffin that had existed for millions of years was extremely shocking. "It's through! It's through!" quickly informed the Lu King. P.S. During the first day of the 10th month, there will be a top-up event. The first top-up will be 5 for every 10 yuan and 20 yuan for every 200 yuan. If it's convenient for everyone, please top up and subscribe. Chapter 366. The Dead Star Ancient Tomb was bottomless like hell. There were many tombs like this, but there were only a few that had appeared so far. How many opportunities one could obtain depended on one's luck. If one's luck was bad, they might lose their lives after discovering the tomb. If one's luck was heaven-defying, it wasn't strange for them to obtain the imperial scripture. After all, the era was too long ago. Every era had great emperors, and not all of them were buried in the ancestral land. The tomb of a quasi-emperor might have many treasures. Plus, there were emperors who didn't have the qualifications to be buried in the ancestral land. They didn't dare to be buried in their own family either. They were afraid of being robbed and implicated. It was hard to tell the era of this ancient tomb. There was only a wooden coffin with a rotten bottom. It emitted a chilling aura. The coffin emitted a terrifying aura as if there was a creature staring at them. Dozens of divine martial realm experts and immortal gate experts stood outside. They didn't dare to breathe too loudly as they waited for Lu Outyan's arrival. Not long after, Lu Outyan arrived in his battle robe with a long sword in his hand. He looked down at the ancient tomb with anticipation. Since he found that Songhai imperial scripture in the middle of the tomb, the interior shouldn't be too bad. "Did you find the tombstone? Do you know whose tomb this is?" Lu Outyan asked. "King Lu, we don't have any clues as to whose tomb this is. Looking at the majestic aura, it must be someone of high status." The general of the Qi Li cavalry, Luo Jie, was a handsome young man at the middle level of the godly Qi layer. Even though he had lost 7 battles, Lu Aotian thought highly of him, so he bowed and said, Lu Outyan nodded and stepped into the depths of the tomb. "King Lu, it's dangerous inside. Let me go in first." Luo Jie was worried and stopped Lu Outyan. "No need. All of you wait outside. Don't take any risk. Once something happens inside, all of you will leave the Dead Star. No matter if I'm alive or not, my will not change. 3 months later, we will move towards the monarch domain." Lu Outyan shook his head. Although he was only a low-level divine martial realm expert, he was definitely the strongest in the Lulan dynasty. If he couldn't come out alive, it wouldn't matter how many people went in. When Luo Jie and the others saw Lu Aotian's determination, they could only smile bitterly. Lu Outyan entered the cave. The path was rugged, the cold air inside the cave was oppressive, the wind caused his clothes to flutter. His eyes were like torches. His sword could be unsheathed at any time, able to cause the stars to reincarnate. Tap tap tap, Lu Outyan's speed was very fast, but his nerves were tense. He did not relax at all. Inside, there was a large hole, and the rotten coffin gave off a rotten aura. There was no sign of life in the surroundings, not even a blade of grass. Lu Aotian stood outside the cave and scanned the inside. The light was dim, and the smell of decay assailed his nostrils. It was lifeless. A huge gem appeared in Lu Aotian's hand, illuminating the grave. A clear and melodious sound reverberated in the tomb. Lu Outyan walked in and set the gem on the stone wall. He moved it carefully for fear of triggering some mechanism. The stone wall was very smooth, as if it had been forged. There wasn't even a single word carved on it, not even a single tombstone, let alone a supreme treasure. This caused Lu Outyan to frown. "This ancient tomb is very strange. Why are the supreme treasures placed outside, but there is only a green coffin inside? Lu Aotian was very curious. He wanted to open the ancient tomb, but he was afraid of blaspheming the human ancestor. He stood beside the green coffin and carefully studied it. After confirming that there was no mechanism, he unsheathed his sword and gently opened the coffin lid, sliding it over. Lu Aotian was very cautious. He approached the coffin step by step and peeked inside. Dong 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 ding, ding ding ding. Lu Aotian's face was pale. His heartbeat quickened, the sword in his hand fell and stabbed into the stone floor. He retreated 10 steps and leaned against the stone wall. He was even more frightened than seeing a ghost. How is this possible? This is impossible. Lu Aotian muttered. His eyes were filled with shock. Tap tap tap. Luo Jie and a few other divine martial experts rushed in. Seeing Lu Aotian's pale face, they quickly asked, Lu Wang, are you okay? I'm fine. Lu Aotian once again approached the greenwood coffin. He pulled out his sword and looked inside. His heartbeat quickened again. His calm face blushed a little. This was a very strange change. It was as if he had seen his sweetheart. He was very nervous and blushed. Everyone gathered around and peeked inside. They all fell down, their faces pale. They were shocked and frightened. This is impossible. This ancient tomb is at least a few 100,000 years old. This woman? That's right, there was a very young woman lying inside the coffin. She was completely intact, as if she was sleeping. Her face was like a fairy, so beautiful that it made it hard for people to breathe. Her gorgeous white dress was still intact even after a few 100,000 years, like an emperor's robe. Such an otherworldly woman, otherwise, Lu Aotian wouldn't have lost his composure. After being an emperor for so many years, what kind of peerless woman hadn't he seen? But seeing this female corpse, his heart actually palpitated. He couldn't control his emotions. Peerless beauty, a beauty that could captivate fish and beasts. It was hard to describe this woman's appearance. Even the most uncanny craftsmanship couldn't carve out such a perfect woman. The woman held a sword in one hand and a book in the other. Her hands were crossed and placed on her lower abdomen. The sword was the ancient reincarnation sword, the book was the medicine codex, the godly pesticide codex. Each of their origins were frighteningly high. The Shennong Medicine Codex was a divine book personally written by Shennong. It contained everything from divine pills to ordinary medical skills. She's Shennong? Shennong is a woman? Lu Aotian frowned. The legend of Shennong had existed for thousands of years. He didn't expect the result to be like this. Lu Aotian bowed slightly. He reached out and took out the godly pesticide codex. The codex was filled with runes, but the words on the codex were savage language. He couldn't understand it at all, it would even burn his divine sense. On the first page of the codex there was a piece of golden paper. It was separated from the codex. It should be some explanation. Lu Aotian read it a few times but still couldn't understand it. He frowned slightly and said with a hoarse voice, "Pass down my order, find almighty experts who have studied the savage language. This king has an important use for them." A divine martial expert left the tomb and passed down the order. The others were still waiting. Lu Aotian looked at the woman. His heart was still beating fast. He couldn't look straight at her. He looked at the reincarnation sword in her hand. It was filled with savage qi. It was incomparably powerful. He reached out to take it out, but when he touched her hand, he felt a warm blood flow. Although it was slow, it was indeed there. He was instantly stunned. She's not dead. Lu Aotian took a few steps back, his body trembling. There was only one explanation for this situation. This woman was sealed. Her life force was almost not lost, just like the people in the Forbidden Land. No, this woman's life force was even slower than the people in the Forbidden Land. It was almost non-existent. What? King Lu. Don't scare us. Luo Jie's clothes were soaked with cold sweat. He wasn't this scared even when he was digging graves. Now he was really scared. She's not dead, she's a sealed person, Lu Aotian said with certainty. Sealed from the savage land until now. What kind of existence sealed her? Luo Jie was shocked, he murmured. If I'm not wrong, this woman should be sealed by Shenong. Other than him, who else can keep a person's life force intact? Lu Aotian said in a deep voice. Nobody spoke for a long time, no one knew how to open the seal from the savage land, and no one knew the consequences of opening the seal. What if Shenong sealed her to prevent her from doing evil? If Shenong could only seal someone, who could resist? Perhaps even a great sovereign would find it hard to look at her back. Of course, this was only a guess. Lu Aotian didn't believe that this woman was an evil person. I'll bring her out first, the environment here is so bad, her ancient tomb has been opened by me, the seal is very likely to be broken, otherwise, I wouldn't be able to sense her life force, it's unwise to let her stay here. Lu Aotian closed the book and put it back on her stomach. He reached out and carried her, the soft and boneless feeling made him blush. He didn't dare to look straight at her. He stared ahead and brought the woman out of the tomb. See if there are other entrances in the tomb, if there aren't any, bury the tomb, then quickly gather all the Star Lords, I'm going to march into the sovereign domain. Lu Aotian instructed Luo Jie and brought the woman straight to Owl Falling Star. Just as Lu Aotian arrived at Owl Falling Star, before he could return to the imperial palace, the woman in his arms frowned slightly and opened her eyes. Her eyes were as clear as stars as she looked straight at Lu Aotian. Lu Aotian's hair stood on end, he was stunned. He didn't even dare to breathe. This feeling was like being stared at by Yi Qinghan when he was young. No, this feeling was even more terrifying. Swish, slap. The woman floated in the air, she gave Lu Aotian a slap, it seemed slow, but Lu Aotian didn't even have the chance to dodge. The woman's white dress fluttered, she stood in the air like a fairy. Order didn't seem to exist in her eyes, her will was order, her words and actions were law, accompanied by the great Tao. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were still alive, after opening the green wooden coffin, I realized you were still alive. I felt that it was blasphemy to leave you there, so I wanted to bring you back. I hope Fairy won't bicker with this little one. Lu Aotian was so nervous that even his words were trembling. This feeling was both nervousness and fear. Lu Aotian didn't understand why he was so nervous. Maybe it was because he was in the middle of the situation. How could any man not be nervous when seeing such a woman? The woman looked at Lu Aotian's nervousness, she smiled, a smile that could topple cities, another smile that brought back the vitality of heaven and earth. The great Tao rumbled, the sound of nature was heard. What era is this? How long has it been since the desolate era? The woman looked around, the sound of nature was like Emperor Ye's zither, it was mesmerizing. Everything here was unfamiliar to her, it didn't matter if things remained the same, but in this era, even things had changed, even the sky had changed. 1,000,000 years have passed. Lu Aotian's mouth twitched, he gently touched his face, that slap didn't cause any harm to him, maybe the woman just wanted to teach him a lesson for his impoliteness, she didn't want to hurt him. This woman was extremely powerful, her cultivation couldn't be seen through, but she didn't have any emperor's aura, she shouldn't have cultivated to the false emperor realm, but her understanding of the great Tao might have surpassed that of a quasi-emperor, close to that of a great emperor. 1,000,000 years? I actually slept for 1,000,000 years, father, The girl murmured, there was panic in her eyes, she was like a lost girl, she couldn't see her family. Everything around her was strange, that kind of helplessness was pitiful. Chapter 367. Lu Aotian did not know what to do. He wanted to comfort her, but he did not know how. Fairy, may I ask if your father is human ancestor Shenong? Lu Aotian bowed and asked. My father is Shenong, I am Shenong Qingyan. Where is this place? Is there a great emperor in this star field? I want to meet him. The girl asked faintly. Lu Aotian broke out in cold sweat. Great emperor? And this star field? Did she think that great emperors were everywhere? My apologies, I am the strongest person in this star field and also the emperor of the Lu Lan dynasty. If you need anything, just let me know and I will do my best to help. Lu Aotian bowed and said, You? So weak and you are the strongest person in this star field? Is there no one else in the nearby star field? Shenong Qingyan was surprised, although she did not mean to look down on him. Her words made Lu Aotian smile bitterly. Lu Aotian was speechless. In terms of battle strength, Lu Aotian was confident that he was invincible in the same realm. In the entire universe, there were less than 5 people who could suppress him at the initial stage of divine martial. At most, only Yi Qinghan could kill him. Other than him, he did not put anyone else in his eyes. Lu Aotian scratched his head and smiled bitterly. Fairy might not know, but the current era is no longer the savage era. The era is changing and so is the heavenly Tao. With my battle strength, I am definitely one of the strongest in the endless universe. Shenong Qingyan curled her lips. This little girl was pure and did not have any intention to hide. She expressed her disdain towards Lu Aotian's battle strength. Little brother, is there any inheritance from the savage era among the current strongest forces? Shenong Qingyan asked. Lu Aotian. I am Lu Aotian, Fairy can just call me Aotian. Lu Aotian wiped away his cold sweat and said helplessly. Okay, little brother Lu, answer my question. Shenong Qingyan looked to be only 15 or 16 years old. Calling Lu Aotian like that was a little weird. Lu Aotian completely gave up on correcting her, and with Shenong Qingyan's true identity, it was not too much to call him whatever she wanted. From what I know, the Emperor region's Dao Realm Holy Land, Zhan clan, came from the Savage Era, but 2 years ago, they were destroyed while resisting the undead. Zhan bloodline only left with 1 or 2 people. Lu Aotian replied. Zhan clan? Exterminated? Shino was astonished. The Zhan clan was extremely powerful, yet they were still exterminated. Yes, they are considered extinct. There is also the ancient massacre god, who also came from the desolate era. He was also destroyed in the battle 2 years ago. Now there is only 1 monarch-level expert and a few young prodigies left. However, their foundation was not destroyed and they were protected. Lu Aotian told everything he knew. He didn't know anything else. Ancient killing god. Now, bring me to that emperor rank. I want to see the history of mankind and find out more about Lord Father, Shenong Qingyan immediately said. Lu Aotian was speechless. Looking at her expectant eyes, he didn't refuse in the end. He nodded and said, Give me 1 day to make arrangements. We will depart the day after tomorrow. In the primeval purgatory, Qi Bingfei had been conned until her face was covered in dirt. However, she had obtained quite a few treasures, so she didn't bicker with the parrot. But the deeper she went, the greater the danger became. Even though the parrot's ability to sense danger had reached a heaven-defying degree, it was still too much for her to handle. The aura of death enveloped her as she approached hell step by step. Qi Bingfei had no choice but to give up, not daring to go any deeper. There are good treasures inside. There is an 8th-grade ancient medicine in front. Are you sure you don't want to go in? The divine bird's face was unwilling. Along the way they had obtained half of the treasures, and it had obtained quite a lot. It was obviously unwilling to leave now, but without Qi Bingfei's protection, it didn't have the guts to do so. I don't want to die. Let's stop here. I believe that you are a divine bird. Qi Bingfei was completely convinced. This bird was simply a god. It could tell where the treasures were and where the dangers were with just a glance. Otherwise, with her strength, she wouldn't have been able to enter the central region. "AI," said the parrot, shaking its head and sighing. If Master wasn't injured, then his cultivation base would definitely have improved by leaps and bounds. It continued, "Unfortunately, it's no use. As far as I know, nobody who gets thrown in here ever gets out." Qi Bingfei quickly left the primeval purgatory. Once she arrived at the periphery, hundreds of young experts had gathered. They seemed to be discussing something. When they saw Qi Bingfei, they immediately waved at her. "Fairy Bingfei, the human race and heavenly demon races experts are joining hands to hold a Tao discussion banquet. They have invited all the elites in the world. Are you interested in joining?" A young man smiled and said, "Brother Songhai, Tao discussion banquet? Who's hosting it?" Qi Bingfei asked curiously. "Shout Songhai, one of the 4 great experts of the human race." However, one of the 4 great experts had already left. Xueqin was dead. It's jointly organized by the leaders of Heavenly Human Union and Heavenly Demon Union. As for the reward, I heard that it's very high. If you are appreciated by the 2 leaders, you will be taken in as a disciple. Another young expert walked out. He was called Hua Rudong, ranked 3rd among the young generation of the human race. He was at the initial level of the divine martial realm. "When is it? Where is it? Do I need an invitation?" Qi Bingfei asked curiously. "At the end of this month, there are still 10 days left. The location is at the Flying Afterglow Mountain. You need to go to the Heavenly Human Union to take the test. As for Fairy Bingfei, you don't need to take the test," Shout Songhai said. "Tisk, tsk. Give my master an invitation too. This divine bird wants to see if the humans and demons in the primeval purgatory are strong." The parrot glanced at the experts and found that some of them were indeed terrifyingly strong. However, it was used to seeing geniuses, so it didn't feel any pressure. "What kind of bird is this? What is the primeval purgatory?" Shout Songhai and Hua Rudong asked curiously. "This is a divine bird. You can call it a divine bird." Qi Bingfei's mouth twitched. She was completely convinced by the parrot now. She didn't dare to offend it, so she took the initiative to introduce it. "Divine bird." Everyone laughed in disdain. The parrot rolled its eyes and raised its eyebrows at Qi Bingfei. It said proudly, "How many treasures have this divine bird brought you to find?" Qi Bingfei didn't understand what the parrot wanted. She immediately said honestly, 1 8th grade ancient medicine, 17 7th grade ancient medicine, and 1 8th grade material. It's all I've accumulated for dozens of years. Everyone was shocked and couldn't help but look at the parrot again. "AI," the parrot murmured, pursing its lips. "That 8th-tier ancient medicine is about to transform. It's only about 3,000 kilometers east of here, in that arched mountain range. Isn't that a bit dangerous? And yet you don't dare to go. Geez, what a coward!" Although the parrot's voice wasn't very loud, it wasn't very clear. However, it was clear that the parrot was talking about an 8th-tier ancient medicine, 3,000 kilometers east of there. Qi Bingfei frowned. She didn't know what the parrot wanted to do. She had never encountered such a terrain. Moreover, she didn't dare to enter the central region of the purgatory. "Ha ha ha, Fairy Bingfei, this little bird is cute. However, I should enter the battlefield to gain experience. I'll see you at the Feixia Mountain in 10 days. Shout Songhai and the others exchanged glances and flew towards the central region. Hundreds of people rushed over in a grandiose manner, forming an alliance. "It's very dangerous here. Let's join hands and get 8th grade ancient medicine. We'll divide it according to our strength. What do you think?" 2 hours later, Shout Songhai and the others arrived at the central region of the mountain range. There were towering mountains and vast forests. Birds flew high and didn't dare to circle at a low altitude. Obviously, there was some danger in there. "Why didn't I see this mountain range before?" Hua Rudong asked in surprise. "Isn't there a cliff behind it? Who would want to fly here to have a look?" Shout Songhai shook his head and looked at the hundreds of young experts behind him. He said in a deep voice, "Are you willing to join hands?" Brother Hua and I will divide the 8th grade ancient medicine equally. However, we will give you the same amount of spirit crystals as compensation. What do you think? No problem. Even if we divide the 8th grade ancient medicine equally, we should get 3,000 upper spirit crystals, right? Everyone was happy and nodded. Everyone joined hands and carefully walked in with swords in hand. Gradually, they went deep into the mountain range. When they entered the valley, they suddenly felt that they were being stared at by countless pairs of eyes. Their hair stood on end. Buzz, 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 the strange cries of the insects covered the sky and covered the earth. It was pitch black and covered the sky. What's that? Retreat. It's a 5th grade poisonous bee swarm. Ah, par whoosh, whoosh. Over 100 masters began to crazily cut down countless wasps with their sabers and swords. A massive number of wasps fell to the ground, but their attacks were extremely terrifying. Their fangs could pierce through true essence and armor, and a single bite would leave behind a dark bruise. Even the blood would turn black and miserable screams would constantly fill the air. Get out! Get out! This is a poisonous beehive. Damn it, we were tricked by that bee*starred bird. Ouch! Shout Songhai screamed as he was surrounded by poisonous bees. Sword Chi shot out in all directions and killed countless poisonous bees. However, he was also bitten a dozen times. Although the poisonous bees were not fatal, their venom was very strong. The pain caused by the wounds was unbearable. Everyone was wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. They quickly killed their way out of the valley. Their faces were black and purple, and they were bleeding profusely. F***ck. That bird must have said that on purpose. F***ck. This is the first time I was tricked by a bird. Huarudong said angrily. Everyone. Along the way, the parrot whined. Those who go against this divine bird will never have a good ending. The parrot said arrogantly. Qi Bingfei was very curious. She asked, Divine bird, where did you point them to? Is there really a top 8th grade ancient medicine? Ha ha, there is indeed. Why don't you go and try? The parrot laughed. Look at your cheap smile. I know they were tricked by you. When they come back, they will definitely settle the score with you. Qi Bingfei reprimanded. TSK, this divine bird is afraid of them? If they dare to look down on this divine bird again, I will send them to hell. The parrot said disdainfully. Qi Bingfei's mouth twitched. She couldn't help but be curious about Yi Qinghan. What kind of man could take this bee*starred bird as a spirit pet and not be tricked to death? When Qi Bingfei and the parrot returned to Butterfly Valley, it was already the next day. Yi Qinghan was sitting cross-legged on his bed. His face was pale, but he was much better than before. His body and soul had completely merged, and he could control it. Although he couldn't use it to fight, he could protect himself. Yi Qinghan got up and moved his body. His soul had recovered by 40% under the effect of the divine lotus seed and the snow god pill. He spread out his divine sense and found that Qi Bingfei had returned. He got up and walked out. Chapter 368. In Huan Zhu's small residence, Qi Bingfei's 2 personal maids had been keeping watch on the bamboo bridge for the entire night. Yi Qinghan was finally not disturbed. His soul was slowly recovering, and he now had some ability to protect himself. Yi Qinghan walked out of the residence and looked at the beautiful scenery. However, he was not in the mood to appreciate it. He only thought about how to leave this place and return to the imperial domain. Qi Bingfei quickly returned to the residence with the parrot. She looked at Yi Qinghan's lonely back and cupped her fist. Mr. Yi, were you disturbed? Thank you for taking care of me. I can leave in a few days. Yi Qinghan nodded. Mr. can rest assured and stay here. This is my private residence. Normally, other junior sisters cannot enter without my permission. They will not disturb Mr.'s rest. Qi Bingfei was somewhat reluctant to let Yi Qinghan leave. The parrot had shown her the path to riches. His harvest in one day and one night was more than what she had earned in decades. Naturally, she wanted to stay for a few more days. The parrot looked at Yi Qinghan and flew to his shoulder. Master, I have good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear first? Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and said hoarsely, Good news. The good news is that I know where we are. The parrot replied. Yi Qinghan was pleasantly surprised. He quickly asked, Where is this? How far is it from the imperial domain? This is the immemorial purgatory. It is very far from the imperial domain. The parrot said mysteriously. Immemorial purgatory? What is this place? Is there such a place in the endless universe? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. This is the bad news. The immemorial purgatory is a prison for traitors. It was set up by the human emperor and the great emperor in ancient times. You can enter, but you can't leave. In other words, we can't leave. The parrot said indifferently. Crack, Yi Qinghan clenched his fist. His aura was somewhat cold as he said, I also have good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear first? The parrot didn't seem to be aware of the change in Yi Qinghan's aura. It spoke in a light voice, Let's talk about the good news first. My soul has recovered by more than 40%, Yi Qinghan said in a cold voice. Congratulations, master, the parrot said with a flattering grin. Congratulations, master. My master can eat well anywhere. If he recovers his cultivation base, he'll definitely unify the world. The bad news is that I can teach you a lesson again. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and grabbed the parrot. With a slap, the parrot was smashed into the lake. Ouch, plop! The parrot immediately fell into the water, flapping its wings in disarray. Its entire body was drenched in water, and it was battered and exhausted. Qi Bingfei was overjoyed. This lowly bird had toyed with her all the way here. She didn't expect to be taught a lesson as soon as she returned. She was in a good mood. Yi Qinghan looked at the parrot indifferently and scolded, Come up and explain to me again. What do you mean by we can't return to the imperial domain? The parrot felt wronged. It flew out of the lake and shook off the water on its body. It angrily said, How can you blame this divine bird for this? This broken prison was set up by the great emperor and the human sovereign. Unless our cultivation base surpasses the combined strength of the human sovereign and the great emperor, we can't leave in this lifetime. Then how do you know this is the immemorial purgatory? Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked. Of course it's because this divine bird's great father came here. Otherwise, how would I know this is the immemorial purgatory? The parrot roared. Your great father came in and went out. Doesn't this mean that we can leave the immemorial purgatory? Are you telling me that your great father's cultivation base surpasses the combined strength of the human sovereign and the great emperor? Yi Qinghan mocked. The parrot's eyes flashed. It said doubtfully, That's right. This broken place must have a life gate. Otherwise, how did my father leave? But why don't I have any inherited memories of this? Did my father hide it? Qi Bingfei, hand over that lowly bird. Hand over that lowly bird. This matter has nothing to do with the Butterfly Valley. Outside the Butterfly Valley, a large group of young geniuses were roaring angrily. Every one of them was wearing ragged clothes. There were also a few young heavenly demons. Their cultivation bases weren't bad, but at this moment they were battered and exhausted. Their jade-like faces were covered with large swollen bruises. Qi Bingfei frowned. She looked at the parrot and Yi Qinghan and smiled bitterly. Yi Qinghan glanced at the parrot. He knew that it had caused trouble, and it wasn't a small one at that. Don't go out yet. Let me see if I can calm them down. Qi Bingfei helplessly turned and walked out of the Butterfly Valley. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and asked helplessly, Divine bird, what did you do this time? The parrot replied disdainfully, This bunch of reckless rookies actually dared to mock this divine bird, so I lured them into a valley that was occupied by poisonous bees. I reckon that they were bitten half to death by a swarm of poisonous bees, so they wanted to settle the score with me. However, you can't blame this divine bird for this. I whispered to that little girl that there was an 8th-grade ancient medicine in a certain small valley, but I didn't let them in. It was their own greed. How can you blame this divine bird? Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He was speechless. Outside the butterfly valley, tens of thousands of flowers were blooming. The flowers were red and green, and it was very beautiful. However, such a large group of beggar-like experts was really a killjoy. Qi Bingfei stepped out of the butterfly valley and saw the miserable state of these people. She couldn't help but feel disgusted. She was glad that she didn't offend this lowly bird. It was simply too terrifying. This group of people, including Xiao Songhai, couldn't even recognize their parents at this moment. Qi Bingfei knew it was them, but she pretended not to know. She asked curiously, "Who are you? This king has never seen you before. Butterfly Valley has no enmity with you. Why are you making trouble?" Many people's faces were swollen like steamed buns, and they couldn't speak clearly. Xiao Songhai and Hua Rudong were fine, but their appearances had changed greatly, so they could speak clearly. They stepped forward. "Bingfei, I am Xiao Songhai. Where is that lowly bird on your shoulder? Get it out. I want to skin it alive." Xiao Songhai roared. Qi Bingfei frowned and pretended to be surprised. She asked, "Brother Songhai? You are Brother Songhai. Who beat you up like this? Could it be the divine bird? It has been with me all this time. Is there any misunderstanding?" Everyone trembled in anger. They looked at Qi Bingfei as if they really didn't understand, but they didn't know how to explain. Hua Rudong was so angry that he was about to cry. People called him a handsome man, but now he had become a pig's head. Who could stand it? "Qi Bingfei, this king is Hua Rudong. That lowly bird must have deliberately led us to a poisonous nest. You call it out. This has nothing to do with you. It is not implicated." Hua Rudong tried to suppress his emotions and said in a low voice. Qi Bingfei looked at Hua Rudong's miserable appearance and wanted to laugh. It was very difficult for her to endure. This was not a handsome man, but a pig-headed beggar. He was even worse. "Everyone, my Butterfly Valley is not a place where you can bully as and when you like. After you separated from me, you were fine. The divine bird and I returned to the Butterfly Valley directly. I can testify that the divine bird has nothing to do with you. Don't try to frame me." Qi Bingfei was gloating, but she did not dare to show it. She spoke with a straight face. However, so many people and heavenly demons had been humiliated. How could they bear it? If they didn't kill the parrot today, they wouldn't let it go. Qi Bingfei felt a little uncomfortable. It seemed like this group of people was really angry. It would be fine if it was just one person, but this group of people represented the majority of the top forces in the purgatory. Some of them were even heavenly demons from the heavenly demon tribe. It wouldn't be easy to fool them. Butterfly Valley didn't have the ability to deal with so many powerful forces. Yi Qinghan led the parrot out of Butterfly Valley, where he looked around at the crowd. His face was expressionless. The parrot was capable of killing even great emperors, so this was just a simple lesson. They should be glad that the parrot didn't want to kill them. Otherwise, how could they have come back alive? "Everyone, I am the master of the divine bird. If there is something wrong with the divine bird, you can tell me. If it is really the divine bird's fault, I will give you an explanation. If not, please don't provoke this king," Yi Qinghan said coldly. "Xuechen? It's Xuechen. Isn't he dead?" Xiao Songhai was shocked and said in a hoarse voice. Everyone was also shocked. Xuechen was dead. He was assassinated by a powerful quasi-emperor in front of so many people. It was impossible for him to still be alive. Hua Rudong looked at Qi Bingfei in surprise, hoping that she could explain. Qi Bingfei didn't want to reveal Yi Qinghan's true identity. She couldn't help but look at Yi Qinghan, hoping that he would explain himself. The corner of Yi Qinghan's mouth rose as he indifferently said, "The reason I didn't die was naturally because of Fairy Bingfei's help. Are you all here to investigate me or to find the divine bird?" Yi Qinghan and Xueqin's aura and momentum were very different. Xueqin was a loner and didn't have any friends. Although his momentum was strong and could suppress ordinary auras, how could Xueqin compare with Yi Qinghan's aura? Xueqin's aura couldn't suppress Xiao Songhai or Huarudong, but Yi Qinghan's eyes emitted a cold light, which made the people in front of him shiver. They didn't dare to look directly at him. The parrot smiled evilly, looked at everyone wretchedly, and deliberately provoked, "This divine bird has never seen you. Why are you looking for this divine bird? This divine bird knows the world above and the 9 nether underworld below. There is nothing I don't know and can't do. If you have a good attitude and are willing to improve, this divine bird will not hesitate to teach you." Puff. A few rookies with weaker cultivation and mental state directly vomited blood. They trembled all over and pointed at the parrot, unable to speak for a long time. "You led us to that underworld, and now you are making sarcastic remarks. It's ridiculous." Xiao Songhai's mind was unstable, and he couldn't burst out his anger. Yi Qinghan looked coldly at Xiao Songhai and asked in a deep voice, "When did the divine bird lead you to that place of disaster? How did it lead you there? Tell me clearly. If it's really the divine bird's fault, I will give you an explanation. If it's not, I want you to give this king an explanation." "Xueqin, who do you think you are? Give you an explanation? Not to mention your current appearance, even if you were at your peak, this king wouldn't take you seriously. Now you think you can talk to this king like this just because you have a cheap bird?" Xiao Songhai gritted his teeth and coldly rebuked. "Yes, you should hand over the cheap bird today. If you don't, I will let you go to the gates of hell again and see if you can come back alive." Huarudong coldly snorted. Chapter 369. Outside the Butterfly Valley, all the heroes were glaring at Yi Qinghan and the parrot. They had no idea that they were not facing Xueqin, but the terrifying god of war from the imperial domain. Yi Qinghan raised the corners of his mouth and looked at the crowd indifferently. "If you want to deal with the divine bird, you have to give me a reason. If you want to deal with it for no reason, then you are forcing me to take action," Yi Qinghan said indifferently. "So what if we force you to take action?" No wonder the Quasi-Emperor seniors personally took action. Idiots like you who don't know their own limits will die sooner or later. Yes, you are already seriously injured, but you are still acting recklessly and shielding the stupid bird. Why are you talking nonsense with him? Just go and take him and the stupid bird away. Everyone was angry and did not want to talk anymore. Everyone, although the Butterfly Valley is powerless against all the forces, we are not afraid of your provocation. Xueqin is my good friend, and he has been with the divine bird for the past 2 days. It has not interacted with you at all. You want to kill it, but after killing Xueqin and the divine bird, will you find an inexplicable reason to kill me? Qi Bingfei asked coldly. Xiao Songhai and the others' expressions changed slightly. Qi Bingfei's appeal on the cold water star was not small. When she was angry, there were definitely more than a few hundred young people who were willing to support her. As long as she was willing to accept, most of them, including these injured people, would be willing to shed blood for her. Fairy Bingfei, don't you know that this stupid bird deliberately told you that there was an 8th grade ancient medicine in the arc-shaped mountain range and put us in danger? That's why we are in such a sorry state. Xiao Songhai said angrily. What a joke. The divine bird told me, not you. It let you in, didn't it? Did it say that there was danger inside? Cheebing Face sneered and asked. It didn't let you in, it just told me. It didn't tell you that you wanted to steal my opportunity, but you were injured and blamed me and the divine bird. It's ridiculous. Also, it clearly told me that there was danger inside, so I temporarily gave up and did not choose to go in. I will go in when I am strong enough. But what about you? You don't know what's good for you. You didn't manage to eat it, but you came to us instead. Do you think I'm easy to bully? Xiao Songhai and Hua Rudong's faces turned ugly. They couldn't refute it. However, they knew that the parrot had deliberately tricked them this time. They couldn't suppress the anger in their hearts. There was no reason to punish the parrot. They also hated Yi Qinghan. Let's go. Xiao Songhai glared fiercely at the parrot. Then, he flicked his sleeves and prepared to leave. TSK, TSK, TSK. There are many treasures in the back mountain of the Butterfly Valley. You're welcome to come and snatch them next time. However, you should bring more people with you. Otherwise, if you get killed, you won't be able to find this divine bird again, the parrot said ambiguously. Xiao Songhai and the others staggered and almost fell to the ground. They took a deep breath and turned to look at Yi Qinghan and the parrot. Their eyes were filled with anger, and they wished they could burn Yi Qinghan and the parrot alive. Yi Qinghan revealed an evil smile at the corner of his mouth. Then, he turned around and returned to the Butterfly Valley. Cheebing Face smiled bitterly. This time, she had offended Xiao Songhai and Hua Rudong. However, when she thought of the parrot's ability, she didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Moreover, there was also Yi Qinghan, who she didn't know the depth of, so this business was still profitable. Therefore, she didn't think much about it. She coldly snorted and turned around to leave, leaving a group of people behind. In the small house of Huanzhu, Qi Bingfei coldly looked at Yi Qinghan and the parrot. For you, I have offended most of the forces of the Cold Water Star. Don't you want to explain your true origins to me? Also, when you leave this so-called ancient purgatory, take me with you. I want to leave this prison. Everyone in the Butterfly Valley has to leave. Qi Bingfei stared at Yi Qinghan and said. Yi Qinghan was silent for a moment. Then, he shook his head and said, If you know the real situation of the outside world, you will find that this place is actually a pure land. Although it's a little better, at least it won't be destroyed. I'd like to hear the details, Qi Bingfei said calmly. There are 4 forces in the outside world. The first is the forbidden land of the dead spirit. The second is the human race. The third is the myriad races. The fourth is the hidden wealthy families. There are countless old monsters in the forbidden land of the dead souls, including the great emperors who had proved their Tao, the emperor-level, quasi-emperors, pseudo-emperors, the great fulfillment of the divine martial arts, and even the weakest of them are ordinary divine martial arts. In order to survive, they hide in the forbidden land. The loss of vitality in the forbidden land is slow. Compared to the outside world, it is still. Therefore, death almost doesn't exist in the forbidden land. Some stubborn humans or other races can't resist the charm of immortality at the last moment of their Tao transformation. In order to survive, the forbidden land will come out every 1 or 2,000 years to devour the life force of the human race for their own use. In order to extend their life force, they continue to search for the so-called immortality. All living creatures suffer unspeakably. It is lucky to be alive. 3 years ago, a great emperor of the dead spirits led dozens of great emperors of the dead spirits to destroy almost all the super forces of the human race and myriad races. A year ago, 5 great emperors personally came out. All the great emperors of the monarch domain appeared. At the cost of being destroyed, they forced the forbidden land of the dead spirits to retreat. Such a fierce battle happens every 2,000 years. Compared to them, you are the luckiest. You don't have to worry about being destroyed. As for the monarch domain, it hasn't produced a great emperor in 3,000 years. The endless universe is enslaved by the forbidden land of the dead spirit. Yi Qinghan recalled the battle of the monarch domain. Experts constantly fell. The brothers and sisters of the ancient massacre gods sacrificed themselves for a righteous cause. Their corpses fell into the cold sea of blood. A tear fell from the corner of his eye. The number one force of the human race, the ancient massacre gods, protected the human race for 1,000,000 years. A year ago, only a few people were left. 300,000 ancient massacre gods and millions of hunters were left. None of them fled. All of them sacrificed themselves for a righteous cause. The 12 Saint Royal clans and the 6 Beast Emperor clans, except for the Qilin Tiger clan, all the other clans were destroyed. It is lucky for a clan to have one elite left. If you go out, can you do it? Or will you become a traitor like your ancestors? Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked. Qi Bingfei took a deep breath. She didn't expect the outside universe to be so miserable. As for my true identity, I'm one of the ancient massacre gods. I once swore to protect the human race. I'm the ancient massacre god. Yi Qinghan said in a hoarse voice. I used the corpse of a great emperor and perished together with a great emperor. I didn't expect that I would fall into the ancient purgatory and escape with my life. My luck is heaven-defying. So, Fairy Bingfei, leaving the ancient purgatory won't do you any good. Yi Qinghan was very calm. It was as if he was telling someone else's story. Killing a great emperor without any arrogance, as if it was nothing. I'm sorry for making you think of sad things. Qi Bingfei didn't dare to look directly into Yi Qinghan's eyes. Her eyes were filled with shock, as if she was looking at a peerless god of war who, in order to protect the human race, controlled the great emperor's corpse to conquer the universe and fight against the great emperors. It's okay. This is fate, their fate. Who knows how many human ancestors were sacrificed to fight for a chance of survival for the human race. Everyone is working hard. I'm just one of them, Yi Qinghan replied calmly. I'm telling you this because I hope you can help me. Help me recover my strength as soon as possible and help me find an exit. I want to leave this place and return to the Imperial domain. The Imperial domain needs me. My sect needs me. Yi Qinghan stared at Qi Bingfei and said softly, I'll do my best. However, I suggest that you participate in this year's Dao discussion competition. If you have the chance to meet the leader of the Celestial Alliance, he might have the information you need. Qi Bingfei thought for a moment and reminded him. Dao discussion competition. Let's talk about it after I recover. I don't know which boundary emperor this Xuechen offended. If I appear rashly and he tries to assassinate me, I might not be able to escape. Yi Qinghan felt helpless. If a boundary emperor wanted to assassinate a 9th heaven immortal, no one would be able to escape. After Qi Bingfei left, Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the bed to speed up his recovery. He swallowed a divine snow pill and his soul was nourished. Yi Qinghan entered a state of cultivation. His soul was compatible with the grand Tao of order, reorganizing the order of his soul and speeding up his recovery. His wood element was ultimately inferior to the wood element. Otherwise, he wouldn't have needed the divine snow pill. The god-slaying eagle had been unconscious. This was actually a way for it to protect itself. Its recovery speed was very fast. With the help of the divine snow pill, it had mostly recovered in 2 days. The parrot was very obedient this time. It took the initiative to offer a large number of treasures and gave all the ancient medicines it obtained to Yi Qinghan. The imperial domain was now in ruins. There were less than 10 ancient massacre gods left, including Di Shang, Yan Yunbei, Di Longtian, and a few other elite. The Zhan family only had Zhan Gu and Yang Zhan left. Both of them had been severely injured and had no choice but to rely on the Kuang sect. Now, the Kuang sect had the most people left. They were all elites of the elites, and there were many superclass experts. For the sake of the human race's last hope, Nie Tian didn't choose to leave this time. Instead, he silently guarded and united with the Kuang sect. Xia Qiue and Xia Ziluo also chose to join forces with the Kuang sect to prepare to rebuild the Heavenly Dragon sacred dynasty. However, the remnant sect and the Yin-Yang 8 tribes joined forces and began to wantonly invade territories. Their disciples even started to develop in the outer regions. Almost all those who didn't submit to the two forces were crushed. Many forces either chose to join forces or submit to the Divine Ghost sect or the ancient massacre gods in order to protect themselves. The war affected the entire endless universe. All the starfields had to choose sides. The remnant sect and the Yin-Yang 8 tribes suffered almost no losses. They were extremely powerful and occupied more than half of the endless universe in just a year. The ancient massacre gods had rested for a year and only recruited less than 3,000 hunters. Moreover, their cultivation was uneven and couldn't form a combat force. Many powerful domain lords who chose to submit to the ancient massacre gods were killed by Tianmu Xingluo and Yin-Yang Dongfei. In order to survive, the human race had no choice but to rely on these hidden forces again. The Kuang sect was still on the defensive. Without a quasi-emperor, they couldn't compete with the two emperor-level experts. However, Yin-Yang Dongfei and Tianmu Xingluo were afraid that Di Shang would explode before his death. They didn't dare to go too close to the center of the imperial domain to threaten the Kuang sect. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.